crafted core.
Hello and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday the 19th of May 2024. I'm your host Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
We are the Internet Cryptids.
And Robert Kemp.
I realised I did the voice as if it was like creepy, like tales, tales from the crypt.
That is kind of the point.
Isn't it more like conspiracy theories and UFOs?
Yeah, but they're usually like creepy monsters.
Maybe.
That's true.
X-Files.
Why is that like, creatures that may or may not exist from folklore tend to be creepy? Why can't they be like...
Because that's what
or something.
That's what ancient people thought was,
useful.
Yeah.
That's how you ward people away from something, is telling them there's a horrible monster that's going to murder you.
Right. So you think it's purely cynical and that they were deliberately inventing?
Well, I don't think they were deliberately doing it. I think that's just like what they thought was... Like people go out in the dark and then they don't come back. What else are you going to say? It was wolves? I mean, yeah, probably, but that's not as cool.
Yeah, but wolves are legitimately real and scary. Why not say something that's an actual threat rather than like some monster?
Yeah, surely if they like say, oh, it wasn't just a wolf, it was like a mega wolf.
And also a lot of the time, I guess the cryptids that stick around is like in the vein of Bigfoot, where it's like one guy saw something one time and it just became a story that stuck.
It just snowballed. But it must have been so many times when one guy saw something one time.
Well, that's why there's all these
like, who cares? Just forget it. It's weird how wolves are like genuinely a threat for a lot of human history. Like obviously to livestock, but also somewhat to people, I think.
Well, quite a lot of people. I mean, like, they don't. It's sort of in the same vein as bears. Like, they usually don't bother you that much unless they're really hungry.
Yeah, similar to bears.
Or you walk directly onto them.
Yeah.
Bears,
speaking of which, I'm going to play Vintage Story. A game where you constantly die from accidentally walking into wolves and bears.
Hello, Wolfman.
So before we go straight into games, should we go to the etymology corner? So I'm presuming that crypt, as in the crypt, what is a crypt anyway?
I think it's more,
isn't it
more like it's sort of the enigma side of crypt, as in cryptography?
Yes, cryptography, like
that's what I mean. I don't think is that the same root, like cryptography, and cryptozoology or cryptid. That's definitely all the same.
Yeah.
But what about a crypt in a church?
Well, is it like something that you hide stuff in, like a crypt and cryptography? You hide the stuff in the crypt.
You encrypt.
Yes, you encrypt.
Does that mean hide? Encrypt?
I doubt it.
I guess. Yeah. Okay. Time to speculate because I have no idea.
No, I haven't got a clue.
But we never have any clue.
Unless death is the biggest mystery of all.
No, I don't think that's where you get the name of crypts from, though.
That's too easy.
Maybe it is from Latin crypta, meaning vault, and that would make sense for encrypt, right? Put it in a vault.
So right. So if it just means to vault up, like ultimately, then I guess a crypt is just a vault, and then cryptography is to secure. Put it in a vault.
But then that means cryptid is like a weird alternate. Is like it doesn't follow the original route; it follows the cryptography route. Then, right?
Kinda, yeah. And that they haven't used crypt from its original source. They've used crypt from the encoding kind of, and then sort of run with it as this is mysterious.
There you go. Etymology corner. It is from the same root.
Mysterious. Like Pikachu saying melons. Mysterious.
What? Why is that's mysterious? Because Pikachu usually just says Pikachu, right?
Yeah, that was the most confusing thing about it.
Like, when did Pikachu say melons?
It was a McDonald's ad.
I feel like McDonald's ad.
I feel like there must have been at least one time in the anime where they did that for a laugh, where Pikachu does just say a normal word, just like one time.
But it wasn't melons, was it?
Probably not melons. Also,
or leather belt.
There was probably an episode There was probably an episode, I feel like I've seen this, but maybe I'm just making this up and it sounds right, but like there was probably an episode where they did it like from the Pokemon's perspective via Meowth, right? Because he can actually talk to them as well as humans.
Right. So
I mean, why is Team Rocket so keen on catching all these Pokemon when they have like the ultimate most useful Pokemon ever in the form of Meowth?
Because it's not about them two, is it? It's about the actual Team Rocket. It's not about those two incompetent idiots.
Yeah.
they're just lackeys.
Yeah, somehow, but they just haven't told their boss that Meowth can talk, I guess.
I guess.
They just didn't think that it's a big deal because they're idiots.
I'm not up on the law. Is there like a huge organisation behind
Giovanni,
Team Rocket?
right? He's the leader of Team Rocket, and also
Right,
coincidentally a gym leader.
But in the anime, is there more than just Jesse
Well, I'm
James?
sure
Jesse
Giovanni
James.
specifically turns up because he's one of the gym leaders, so he has to anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
And also, the whole Mewtwo thing, that was partially Team Rocket. Well, I guess not the original thing that happened with Mewtwo, but the subsequent trying to find Mewtwo.
Do games ever lean into having specific Team Rocket antagonists like Jesse and James? Like
No.
They didn't borrow that.
And also, Team Rocket's only in the first game. You've got to have a new team for every game.
For every game.
Team Aqua.
Oh, yeah.
Team... I don't remember any of the other ones. Don't remember what the other half of Team Aqua was. Because
They
after
have
the
different
first game, they
motivations,
started...
don't they? Which ones are the Eco Warriors?
Well, that's one of Team Aqua, and I forget what the other one of those is. Team Terror or something, probably. But, they started... In all the other games, they started doing two teams based on which version of the game you're running, of course.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, and what was it in the England theme one? Weren't they like skinheads, basically?
Yeah, they were like they were like the fans of one of the gym leaders, were the bad guys, even though they were just like thugs rather than like an organised crime thing.
That's quite funny. Football yobs.
Yeah.
What's the Millwall chant? No one likes us, we don't care.
Pretty much. Sounds about right. Sounds correct. I mean, I don't like
There's
them.
your dose
And they
of
don't care.
Pokemon lore / football lore.
Theoretical Pokemon lore, anyway.
Why are they called Team Rocket, anyway? Is there any relevance to
Don't
the
know
rocket
that was
part?
ever explained in any of the lore that I know of.
They were called that in the game before the anime started, right?
Yeah.
Presumably.
Well,
they didn't change.
I'm never 100% certain like how the start of the anime and the first games actually lines up because of the weird Japan timings.
Yeah.
The game must have existed before the anime.
It did, yeah.
I'm not sure that's 100% true. I think it might have been pretty close. Or like
I thought it was
a manga, possibly even.
What, you mean they tried to Viva Pinata it before Viva Pinata? Like, go cross media before the games ever come out?
Well,
I thought the anime was quite late in Japan, but basically the same time in the West, right? When because Red and Blue came out like 2 years later, or 1.5 years later, or something in the West.
No idea.
Compared to Red and Green, I think it's like 95 or something. 96. I can't remember. Anyway,
but it's not like it's not like Red and Blue were actually the same as the anime. That was they only backported that into Yellow when they were like
Yellow.
the Pikachu.
Yeah, that's true.
And canonically, even in Yellow, it's not actually Ash or anything. It's still Red. The person called Red.
Mystery Red.
Oh, it's not Ash in Yellow.
No.
Huh.
He just has a Pikachu. It's just that they added Pikachu as the starter, basically.
Yeah, but they also added Pikachu following you around in the overworld.
Sure, but that's like that was, I guess, an anime reference, but they didn't they didn't actually make it Ash or anything.
Because that's the thing in the anime is Pikachu's the only one that won't get in a ball, right?
Yeah. He just doesn't like it. So won't go. Weirdly. Is it? I mean, I think we may have talked about this before. But do you think it's pleasant in the ball for Pokemon? Like, is it some kind of like miniature theme park in there?
Surely when you go into one of those revival machines or whatever at the Pokemon Center, that's got to feel good, right? When you go ding, 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 ding.
I don't know. I don't think they've ever...
how many tiny needles are being jammed into them all at once.
I don't think they've ever specified, but I imagine it's probably just like... They probably just consider it to be like stasis, right? Because you can shove them in the PC forever, and they just turn into data somehow. That's the other thing about Pokemon.
Yeah,
they're all just data, and the Pokemon somehow makes them real.
they're actually Digimon.
Yes,
but they won't.
So is the Pokemon
that.
world really like the Matrix then, and they're just like programs, but you can also.
I mean, we can't start assuming that every game just has the Matrix layer on top of it.
I mean, it makes more sense for Pokemon than anywhere else.
I don't know, maybe. I mean, that is basically what Digimon is.
Yeah,
Digimon is literally the Matrix.
So yeah, I don't know any Digimon lore at all. In fact, I know nothing about Digimon.
You just go to the computer, like Tron.
Other than I think I had.
Tron is the Matrix.
Other than I think I had one.
I mean.
Like the actual Digimon. Yeah, because it was a
They like Tamagotchi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess they must have done that at some point. Oh yeah, I think I do remember it now.
It had more buttons and was square.
Well, it was a Digivice, obviously.
Yeah.
Which is not that dissimilar in size and shape to a Tamagotchi.
A Digivice. Every device is a Digivice.
Well, an electronic device.
Well, it has to be digital, presumably, to be a Digivice.
Yeah,
you could have an analog electronic
devices.
We don't call those anavices.
Why not? We should be calling them Animon.
Or a Vicelog.
Animated or are they analog? Analog versions of monsters.
Just gonna keep this electronics very still by putting it in my Digivice.
How would that work in a Digimon lore if one of the creatures was analog? What would they get away with?
I don't think they've ever specified like what the data transfer is like like Pokemon. They don't go into the technicals of like how exactly is this, how is all this data stored and transferred?
It would be a pretty fun story though. if they like some like Team Old School turn up with some Animon and then
I mean, the
Digimon... and they have like an EMP device that's going to wipe out all the digital...
Digimon has a lot of
golden
viruses.
In Digimon.
And they have to start each battle by like firing up the valves or something. Warm up the valves, get the electric guitars out.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, viruses would be bad in the PCs in Pokemon.
That's how Pokemon Fusion happens, right? That's how Infinite Fusions became.
Well, they have that Pokerus thing, that weird Pokemon virus that makes them level up better for some reason, and that's transferred in. I think if they're in your team, but you can store it in the PC. Like it doesn't get healed by Pokemon centers. It doesn't get healed by putting them in the PC. So it's like this incurable disease, except it goes away by itself after a while as well. So if you want to keep exploiting it, you have to deliberately infect people to keep the virus alive.
Oh, weird.
And they become immune after one time, I think, if I remember rightly.
Right.
So they have some kind of like, it's a virus, but like it's more like a real virus. It's like a computer virus.
I'm afraid you've caught Sophos.
And its only effect is to make you level up better, which that would be helpful in real life. Get a virus that just makes you better for a week.
In a lasting way.
Well, not in a lasting way. You only get it once, and you only get it for as long as it takes for your immune system to kill it.
Oh yeah, but I would level during that time, so it'd be fine.
Yeah.
If humans can't level, right? Having a virus that allows me to level sounds pretty good.
It depends what you would mean by that. If you can't level, what does leveling mean?
Exactly. It must be better, right?
It could just mean nothing at all.
Level up in their
I guess it could be nothing at all, yeah. I get leveled, but there's no stat sheet for it to work on, so it just goes, Sodja.
You get nothing. You don't actually level up. The virus tries to make you level up, but then you can't because it doesn't exist. So you just stay exactly the same.
I was about to say, what if it just makes every number go up? But that's actually bad, right? Oh shit, my blood pressure's gone up. Oh, my weight's gone up.
Well, it depends if it's proportional to like the actual number. If your blood pressure goes up by like 1, probably not that noticeable.
Well, my speed's gone up, but also my parkrun time's gone up. How does that work?
That parkrun time is not. That's relevant to your speed. That's not a stat of you.
But that's how the stat is tracked.
No, it's not.
My flight went from 0 to 1.
Do you track your time? I presume you track all your times on Strava or whatever.
I do, yes.
Yeah. Can you see your trend over time, over like multiple years?
I mean, annoyingly, yes, but I think it's one of those things that Strava actually started to make difficult unless you have a paid account.
Right.
Like it tries to do trends across the courses and routes that you run and things like that. But if you really want to dig into it, you have to have the paid account. But it's fine. All the numbers are there. I can just sort of look at it and go, "Oh, that was a slower one." Or,
is it expensive? Or
I have no idea.
Do they have tiers and stuff? Yeah, I suppose. Don't even worry.
Not even looked. I wouldn't exactly call myself a pro athlete, even though in order to be part of a running club, technically that makes you an athlete by because you have to get a UKA subscription essentially, like when you become a member of a running club.
Oh, really?
So technically, I have a UK athletics number.
I had no idea. What does that? Why is that necessary?
I don't know. I guess it's because the clubs can enter like proper races, and I guess if you get some really good, like actually, like high grade people, then the clubs need to track where they came from, I guess, so the club can get recognised for it. And I don't know. It's a regulatory body of sorts.
Regulatory.
Which means they get to get nice and close to the mic and go, "We're regulatory."
I knew that was coming.
Oh, yeah. So I finished The Bear.
You did?
I got around to actually finishing that off.
Season 2. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, boy, am I hungry for more. Hungry. See what I did there? Hungry.
Hungry for more. I mean, they're making more.
I know. And it's not that far away either, which is amazing.
That's good.
But, oh my God. Oh, it's just when everything seems to be going just sort of swimmingly.
Of course. I know. I thought it was a bit contrived right at the end, although it was good.
Absolutely. It makes you kind of boy. But like now every character I hated I like, and every character I liked I hate. It's like it's flipped everything. What a show. Excited to see what they do next.
The Richie episode's good, right?
Oh yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
The whole thing is pretty excellent.
I just don't like any suggestion of any kind of Carmen Sydney ship.
No, I don't think that's going to work.
They're hinting at it a bit, and I think this is bad.
Yeah,
don't do that.
I don't think that's going to work.
No.
Well, because I mean, Sid Marcus is more likely anyway, so it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I hope so. That scene when they're he's fixing the table or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, not sure. Anyway, it's cool. Yeah,
I wasn't even quite sure what they were doing to that cocking table. Like,
no, I know it was just some excuse. There
was a hook off the bottom of it.
Table.
There was I don't know. Was it like a coat hook or something? They were like that was off, and for some reason it needed fixing on both sides. But for some reason, taking this coat hook off could make the whole table collapse. So they needed to hold it. Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
And obviously, the most crucial thing to be done at that moment of the opening night or whatever.
It's a fun show. It's pretty stupid, but it's fun. I hope they managed to maintain the madness. That's what I'm looking for now. Everything's all swanky and, spoiler alert, restaurant-y now.
Yeah. Well, I suppose now they can show the contrast, right? because originally it's pretty chaotic in all areas of the restaurant, right? So maybe they can show this part. Well, they started doing that, but this part is like calm and serene, and that's a facade because everything is chaos in the back.
Yeah, but it'll be all about the economic drama this time.
Yeah,
it's going to become a finance show.
We'll see. I have faith. They've done well so far. I still have my criticism of season 2 is they just like I said, every single new character is someone absurdly famous.
Sure.
Which is slightly distracting at times. It's kind of cool, but yeah, slightly too successful for its own good in that sense.
It's fine. I don't mind it. Yeah, I don't think I've been watching too much else. Well, apart from I don't really know why, but I've gone back to watching Bleach.
What? How far in to Bleach? The start?
No, not the very start. Although a bit of me thinking maybe I should have. Not because I think I've even after 20 odd years of not watching it, I don't think I've forgotten all that much. But apart from characters' names and who's who, and because there's an awful lot of bloody characters in that show. But no, I basically went in near enough at the point I left it, which is 70 odd episodes in or something.
Yeah, not even that far. Not even close to that far.
No, there's 16 seasons or something. And then a revival not that long ago of a couple of seasons, which is a bit weird. Yeah, I don't know what. It's not very good. I'm not really sure why I'm watching it. It's just sort of. It's a big nothing, and I think that's because this was the point where I fell off was that for those who already know it was where they introduced the bounce that are basically vampires but kind of not vampires, but they're vampiric in nature, and they live forever and they need living souls in order to power up and do something. But yeah, I don't know. This was the point where it started diverging from the manga, apparently, because there wasn't enough manga so they just sort of went off on one and did their own thing for the anime.
Game of Thrones style.
Kinda, yeah.
Not that you've seen that, but yeah.
No, but I was just sort of because I've read some of the manga, I haven't read all of it, and so I've read what the next section should be, and I was kind of trying to do the thing where you go through the episode list in Disney Plus where it is and be like, okay, where is the bit where I caught up to it? And I really can't tell, just by going through that, how far. So maybe the whole series just completely moved away from whatever the hell happened in the manga, so it's a bit weird. But obviously, it's like a shonen anime, so it's Naruto and One Piece and stuff like that. So stuff happens, but it can be pretty slow and pretty sluggish, and then you'll get a flashback episode, and then a fight will last several episodes. It's that kind of thing. Yeah, I don't mean. Maybe I'll just get through this season and see how I feel about it, because I'm sure there must be some sort of interesting plot twist at some point. I don't know. Not sure I'm feeling it, but it is nostalgic in some ways. Bleach. Also, I've never understood why it's called Bleach. I don't really get it. I guess Ichigo being a strawberry blonde character, where it's actually it's supposed to be strawberry blonde, right? Because his name is Strawberry. That's what Ichigo literally means. But he's more of a ginger, in the way it's portrayed on screen. So it's I don't know. It's a bit strange. I guess that's unusual. Is that is that all it's got?
I mean, what's positive about Bleach other than killing germs and stuff? I guess
and making hair white.
Is it to hair?
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if it's the same bleach. I assume it's not the same bleach, right? When they say someone's bleached their hair and they come out looking like Eminem, right? That's the...
Yeah, exactly. That's not what the character looks like, though, so...
No.
I don't know.
So I don't really understand.
That's why you should have gone back and watched the first episode. See
Yeah.
if they just randomly have like a totally throwaway thing that then just becomes the name of the whole show, but is never referenced ever again.
I don't think it. I'm not sure it ever is. I just don't get it. I should probably go look that up. That probably is a good reason. Oh, someone's probably got theories. The internet's got theories. Cryptozoology of Bleach, please. And
That's TV.
It's funny because it's dated, right? Is the thing? It's like from when was it early 2000s? So like the Shinigami for some reason have like flip phones, like because that's how deaf gods communicate. They use mobile phones still.
Actually, it's kind of nostalgic though. Media, flip phones. Yeah,
it's pretty stupid.
They're good visually in like drama because you can flip them open and it's obvious that you're answering a call instead of sort of tapping on a bit of glass.
And there's like an associated sound with that, right? The whole flick, and it's whereas now they have to they always put a sound, don't they? With someone pushing a button on a touchscreen phone, they always make it play like a touch tone noise for some reason. So it's like boop.
Yeah, give you some feedback. I mean, the best you can get realism wise is the actual like iOS feedback noise that everyone has turned off, but they'll play it.
Oh yeah. The keyboard tapping, right? They always have that on, so it's like.
I saw someone the other day had that on, and so some people must have it on.
I guess, yeah. I remember like back in the days when I had a Nokia, like. You could make it so if you turned on key noises for when you were typing a text, like with predictive text in that old fashion, each of the numbers would make a different tone. So you'd be sitting there going,
it's kind of fun. Touch tone style.
Yeah. It was kind of neat.
All right, should we get into games?
I mean, we could. If you really want. If you really, really want. This is a podcast about video games.
Talking about really, really wanting, I got
tickets. God, are you actually going to see some Spice Girls action? Is that where this is going?
Yes.
What?
Yes, one of my favorite podcasts that my brother introduced me to years ago, which is an American podcast that makes fun of bad movies. It's called The Flop House. Flop. Yeah. I've been listening to it for years, but they're doing a live show in the UK in Oxford. And so on next Friday, they're doing two.
And they're talking about Spice World.
Yes, they're doing Spice World.
Amazing.
Of course. They're doing Spice World as the second one. And then the first one, they're doing the Avengers. Like, no, not that Avengers. Avengers.
There was
1998.
Right, that thing.
Yeah. Yes.
I haven't seen Spice World, but I have seen the Avengers.
Both terrible films.
Yeah.
So I've got them downloaded. So I'm going to be watching some pretty bad films and then enjoying the
Avengers is awful.
Hilarious riffs. Exactly.
Like not even good bad, just
might
awful.
Be bad.
Yeah.
I mean, a bit worried because I think Spice World has a cameo or something of Gary Glitter's in it.
It does, but most versions that are available
cut it out.
Cut that out. Yeah. So, but I think the version with Glitter, they talked about it on when I was listening to, was it 60 songs of the 90s that explain the 90s or something, the Spotify podcast.
Oh, yeah. That's a great podcast.
It is a great podcast. Yeah, they covered Spice Girls in that and they talked about it there. But yes, the Gary Glitter was in the theatrical release.
But not on the
And then
DVD
as soon as it
release.
came home, he was gone.
Okay, phew.
They cut that out. So the version you'll probably watch will be deglittered.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, I am actually consuming some Spice Girls content this week in preparation for that live show. So looking forward to it. Should be really good.
I'm sorry.
And I'm gonna
I'm so sorry.
check out Oxford as well because I went to university in Cambridge and I'm very used to Cambridge, but don't know Oxford at all. I had no course to go there.
No, I've been a few times, but I don't really have my bearings on it at all. It's honestly,
Cambridge
I'm thinking
referred to as the other place.
The other place. Yeah, I'm trying to think about Oxford, and I can't picture it other than all I can picture is scenes from Lewis. It's like,
right, yeah, or Morse, just slightly earlier.
And I've been there. I mean, and it's like, why is that the only reference point my brain has?
Yeah, that's right, isn't it? Oxford is extremely dangerous for murders, right? Because Midsummer is like nearby fictionally, right? And there's loads of murders there. So, yeah,
that's really funny. That's really funny. Okay, I mean that's objectively better than going to see some kind of Spice Girls reunion thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, nothing against the Spice Girls, but I think they may be slightly past their prime. Although I did see Mel C at Glastonbury. I did see Mel C perform.
Oh, you mean the talented one?
Yeah, the talented one. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they called her back in the day, right? Talented Spice.
The other thing that was at Glastonbury was Sugar Babes, the original lineup.
Right,
it was too packed. There was too small a stage, and it was impossible to get to. Anyway.
Those first few singles were all right.
Yeah, the first single, Overload, is freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
That's a great pop song. So, video game news.
I watched Maverick. I don't know if we talked about that.
Oh, God. Here we go. Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
I saw that in the cinema. Got opinions on that.
It turned up on streaming, so I watched it. It's like, I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, it's entirely nonsense.
It's fine. It's nonsense. Yeah, it's nonsense.
In some ways, I think it actually is a bit more grounded than the original, as in, like, it feels a bit more purposeful in terms of plot. Like, there is a mission, and it's all gearing towards that, which the first one doesn't really have, right? Things just it's been a while since I've seen the original Top Gun, but like in my head, it always kind of just ends up being like they're in school for 2 acts, and in the third act, they just kind of accidentally get into a fight, and then that's the film.
Yeah, I mean, the main plot is the training. Yeah, so it's like it's hard to get into the school. That's the thing. So it's like they get into the school, right? And then the main plot is going through the school, and then at the end, there's the fight. But the fight coming out of nowhere, I guess. Yeah, the context for that is that actually sort of happened in real life.
Sure,
because it was Libya, right? Gaddafi.
I mean, sure, I get it, but like, does it make a great plot? Not necessarily. Like, you know, it's a little bit left field, right? It's like, oh, who are these guys we're fighting? Doesn't matter. They've got black helmets.
They really don't want you to, and that's true. Also, it's a bit weirder in Maverick because they're making more of a thing of it, but they also don't want to point out who the bad guys are.
No, they also don't say. They just say it's some kind of terrorist nation that are incredibly well resourced, as it turns out.
I mean, it literally made me think of it's not just Top Gun, but of course the Simpsons joke is that we're under attack from commie Nazis. Right?
Right, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's stupid. And I kind of thought I always thought it would do more with the bit where, spoilers, I suppose, where they get stranded behind enemy lines, and a bit of me was thinking like, oh, okay, maybe this is taking a turn. Maybe this is going to get a little bit more interesting as they then saunter through an enemy base.
Yeah, just wander through. Manage to, yeah. I knew the thing is that there was one shot at the end of the trailer, the teaser trailer, and from that I could already figure out that was the plot and that was going to happen.
Right.
Because
and then they managed to take off
because I'm a nerd or whatever I know, and also I always liked I'm not sure what the way round it was, whether I always liked airplanes and therefore liked Top Gun, or I watched Top Gun and then liked airplanes. I'm not sure which way round it is, but I was quite young. But yeah, obviously the awesome Tomcat jet from the first film is retired in the US, and also they destroyed all of them, and the reason is because there is an air force that flies them, and it's Iran, because they sold them to Iran before the revolution. And that's why they destroyed them all, so that Iran had no way to get any kind of spares,
right?
To maintain their fleet or whatever. So even though they don't specify, the truth is there are F-14s flying, and they're in Iran.
But yeah,
so I knew that they'd have to be stealing the top. They'd have to steal a Tomcat from.
I see.
From the enemy. Yeah,
I see. That makes some sense. Also, they managed to take off on a runway that they supposedly made unusable.
That they themselves had bombed? Or?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
It got missiles, right? That was the trigger for the mission. That was the whole plan, right? They'll sink it with a missile strike on the runway, and so they don't get too many aircraft in the air. And then, of course, that turns out that it didn't matter. They could just take off on it. It's so stupid.
I also liked how the mission was to fly down a narrow canyon and drop a bomb on a very tiny, tiny spot, which is the exact same plot as Star Wars. But also, Star Wars stole that from the Dam Busters.
Right, yeah.
Which is a real mission that happened in World War II, where they had to fly down a narrow valley and drop a bomb in a very precise spot.
Sure.
Yeah. It's just the same thing repeating.
I enjoyed it. It's is it better than the first? I honestly don't know. Like I think, as I say, I think some plot hangs together better, but I'm not entirely convinced by the character interactions this time round compared to the first. Also, they kind of introduce half the squad and then you never see them. Like, which is really funny. Like, half the students, it's like, and here's these guys, fuck them.
Yeah, basically.
Which is kind of weird, but never mind.
I'm glad people seem to enjoy it, and that's good, especially after COVID and everything. For me, it doesn't even come close to the original, but it is awesome that they freaking filmed them in actual jets.
Yeah, sure.
That is really cool. Obviously, they didn't do that in the original film, and it's very cool that they were like GoProing them in the back of real jets and having real G-forces and stuff. That is awesome.
Yeah, and then having to do presumably one hell of a difficult CG job to then put it in the situation, as flying low as they were in places and in the right seats and things like that.
Well, maybe they do fly low in real life, so who knows? I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's debatable how much, or debated how much.
Yeah, I don't think
there definitely is
revealed.
CG in it, obviously, quite a bit. But yeah, I think that's the coolest thing about it for me, was how practical it was. But yeah. The fact that there's less effects in some ways than the original 80s film is cool.
It's a good looking film. Can't deny that. It's good looking.
Those Hornet jets are just not as cool as the Tomcats, though, are they?
Sure.
I don't know why. I don't know what's wrong with them, because also the Super Hornets are like a bigger, faster version of the original Hornet. They're like a different plane. But they're still just not as cool you can't get as cool as a Tomcat.
Yeah, it's a classic. It's a classic look. It is just aesthetics, isn't it? It's just a look to it.
Yeah, I mean, the Tomcat has the swing wing thing, which is obviously cool. They don't do that anymore.
Swing wing.
With the wings. Do you know what I mean? The wings.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. It just reminded me of like Benedict Cumberbatch trying to say penguin.
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 Or what's the fancy term for it? Variable geometry.
Right.
Yeah.
Swing wing. Snap map.
With the swing wing.
That was all I can remember that I watched. Sorry, segue. Back to games. What's going on?
Maverick. Time for games. Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't make a tie-in game for that. That was.
But they did. It was in Flight Simulator.
Oh yeah.
They did. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Because no one makes flight sims anymore, apart from Flight Sim.
I was in Oxford Circus the other day. Did I tell you that? And in the Microsoft store, the hilarious Microsoft store that's always mostly empty, that is like right on Oxford Circus and is like a few doors down from the hugely busy Apple store or whatever. They had like a Dune Ornithopter model that you could get into and play the Dune Ornithopter mod, the official mod thing for Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Yeah, you did tell me, but that is rad.
Yeah. It's well cool.
It's pretty cool. Now all I need to do is do that with the, I can't even remember what it's called, but the dropships from Halo.
With Pelicans.
Pelicans, that's it. Yeah.
I mean, the other end of that shop is a warthog for some reason, taking up loads of space with giant tires. Yeah, I think you can get in that. I can't remember why. I think it's obviously it's for kids.
Well, if only they kept making good Halo content.
Yeah, I mean,
to justify it.
What would you recommend that they do now?
Stop closing studios.
Wow. Yeah. That too. That perfectly done, Zach. Perfectly done. Yeah. 10 out of 10. No notes.
Yeah, maybe do close 343. And
okay, you close one more studio and then.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I don't want to see any studio closed, obviously, but I would like someone else to have a go at Halo.
Yeah.
Because I'm for 343 have had their run, right? How many games they've made now? 3, I guess.
Well, if we're talking about the theoretically free numbered ones, except the last one wasn't.
4, 5, and Infinite. Yeah. And I guess technically they're behind Master Chief.
Yes,
and in fairness, the quite good, I believe it was them that did the Halo 2 anniversary update, which is pretty good.
Right, I played through that. That was great.
Yeah,
honestly, I really don't like the Halo 1 anniversary. That's terrible.
Yeah, because it's
Halo 2 anniversary is so good.
Yeah, I don't mind the Halo 1 one, but I do agree. I remember we talked about this before, but I agree. I do agree with your opinion that they changed the art style too much. Right,
yeah.
The aesthetic is different. In the up-resed version, and that's not really in the spirit of it.
I mean, I could pass it if it was, I'm not saying it has to be 100% faithful or whatever. No. But I think they made it worse.
Yeah, and I can see that. I definitely can see that. There's elements of it that don't. Yeah, it's not quite. Yeah, I don't know. I want that. If you're going to do an upscale like that, I want it to look better, but carry the same feeling, and it didn't. And that was the problem with that. But yeah, I would really like someone else to have a stab at Halo at this point. I didn't really have a problem with Infinite per se. It was actually quite an enjoyable Halo, but
it seemed like the gameplay loop was especially with the grappling hook was pretty cool.
Yeah. But I do kind of just yearn but Infinite lacked the nice set piece moments that the original Halo games were kind of built. That was the core tenet of them, right? They were just not cool moment to good environment to fight in to good environment to fight in, and it's like this kind of was missing that. And the sort of linear mission stuff was all in the same interior environment, to a point, so it didn't really feel. The open world stuff was fine, but then when there just wasn't enough of the fully guided stuff. Really, it's a very different thing, and so I kind of yearn back for the original structure.
This is a very small thing. I've probably complained about this before, but for me, Halo, it's a space opera, like Star Wars. It's not hard sci-fi, but it had elements borrowed from hard sci-fi, a little bit like Mass Effect does, and I liked that. And then the Halo itself is, a possible object if you have, insane abilities in terms of materials science technology to build it. It actually makes sense that you spin it and you stand on the inside of it and you can have an atmosphere and it works potentially. And they kind of angled it right so there's the shadow of a moon on it or something to give you the nighttime, right? And then it spins around and you get the daytime. I don't know. It was kind of cool. I like that. But in Infinite, you're on a Halo, but it's broken. So it doesn't make right. Is that right? Is there a force field holding it together? It doesn't make any sense.
It's all shattered in Infinite, and it's
Yeah. And, that's fine if you don't care. But I like the fact that it cared a little bit in the old days about physics slightly, even if it's an absurd space opera.
I mean, you say in the old days, but they
and stuff.
Pooped all over that by the time they got to Halo 3, right? So even the Bungie era ones kind of messed that up.
No, that's true. That annoyed me that the ARC is the thing that makes the Halos, but the Halos make sense, but the ARC doesn't. So yeah,
the ARC wasn't.
But yeah,
the ARC could have worked kind of if you were to imagine that it was like a segment of a sphere and it was orbiting a blank space in the center of its gravity.
It was moving in the same way, but
it would have to be counterbalanced by something on the opposite side.
Sure.
That you would be able to see, presumably.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Yeah, maybe it was orbiting a black hole or something.
Yeah.
Anyway. It's a small thing, but I don't know.
But then the gravity element of it doesn't really work. But then there's false gravity in Halo anyway, right? They have gravity jets.
Yeah, on the ships and everything. Yeah. But it's just nice that the Halo rig itself had an explanation for gravity and stuff. Obviously, it's taken from sci-fi, it comes from, it's like Dyson spheres, and then there's ring world is Larry Niven, which is a ring around the entire star, right? And then smaller ones like Halo are in the culture novels, the Ian M. Banks ones and stuff, etc. And then it's kind of cool. What's the Mass Effect Citadel spins, right? And that's
like a arms, Startopia style base, right? Isn't it just a donut that spins around? Or
well, yeah, because it's like the Presidium is the very middle bit, but then the arms are parallel to that spin anyway, so they also get the same gravity.
Does the Presidium have lower gravity than the?
Yes, they mentioned that specifically in the lore. In a log you can find somewhere
in the very first game. Yeah, they talk about that.
See, I like all that stuff. Anyway, and obviously that's not important for your sci-fi space shooter, but to me it was kind of cool. Oh yeah, and they totally ditched it.
Yeah. They moved away from that, which is a shame. I would like. I think I yearn for that in general with games. Like, I know that they need to try and, but the cost of games is going up and all that, so games get bigger, and then if the games get bigger and they get more play time, then that's how they keep people these days. I guess it feels like a value add, but I kind of yearn for the and I think I've been saying this for like a decade at this point, but the Tight 8, right? I think I've talked about before in context of Gears of War and stuff like that, like the Tight 8-hour campaign,
right?
I want that back, and because I enjoy that format. Like, I just want to be on I kind of just want to be on a nice scripted roller coaster ride from beginning to end, where everything is just, this is how it is. This is the ride. Enjoy it.
I guess that's what COD campaigns are these days.
Yeah, right? COD is still that. Yeah.
Maybe they're a bit shorter than that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think they are now.
But they are a roller coaster for 6. Are they shorter? Are they 6 hours or something?
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah.
But COD is COD, right? COD has never changed. That's the problem. They're just not interesting anymore.
No. Yeah, the 30 seconds of fun is not, I don't know. Where's the innovation there? There isn't any from COD, that's for sure.
No one is really doing that space. I mean, Doom 2016 is probably the closest we got to going back to that formula.
Yeah, that's true. And that was a success.
Yeah.
But not on the scale of something like COD.
Sure.
In terms of investors, I guess.
Sure, I mean,
but they just got bought by, you just ended up getting bought by Microsoft, so,
well, yeah.
As long as they don't shutter your studio.
And don't get me wrong, there's been a few copycats on that, like Shadow Warrior 3 ended up being a Doom-like, and I enjoyed that. And I want to say, I'm actually kind of excited to play Immortals of Avium a little bit. That's just turned up on Game Pass. And although everyone kind of poo-pooed it last year and sort of a swimming in sevens style game, I think its structure is pretty linear and pretty old school. So I'm a little bit excited to play a Tight 8 game finally. It's weird. It's just cool. I think it's just something that's missing from the gaming landscape. As everyone starts to talk about, hey, we probably need to start making smaller games because the big ones are costing us far too much to make. I'm like, fuck yes, do that, please. I would actually be quite into that.
Except for when everyone starts having the Nintendo problem where they will cost too much.
Yeah.
Comparative to their length.
Yeah, exactly. It's a balancing act for sure. But
if you want to make small games, start charging 30 quid again.
But is this a problem for, like, do Nintendo have a problem where people don't buy them?
I mean, have we played Metroid Dread? No. And why not?
No, I suppose that's true.
Yeah, because, it's a full price game and it's because it's a full price game, but it also because it's on a Nintendo platform, it also doesn't have the benefit of like the feel that it had the same money spent on it in a weird way of like a game that would be made for like Series X or something like that. You know what I mean? It feels like it should be cheaper.
Well, Nintendo games always have the Nintendo quality, which does make up for some of that cost.
Absolutely, yeah.
You just don't. It's harder to perceive that until you play it.
Yeah.
Like, I would have even said that the same about, like, a Mario game, where it's just like, until you play it, you're like, well, it's just a Mario game, right? But then it's like, oh, wait, Nintendo made this.
Yeah, and then you get a couple of worlds into Odyssey, and you're like, oh, yeah, all right, this is... Oh, my God.
I still think you should play Wonder. It's pretty good. I think it's worth the money.
I know, but, like, come on, switch to Mario. It's got to happen, right? It's got to happen.
Well, yeah, it's coming, I'm sure.
And then the hype. So hype.
Unless it's finally going to be that Donkey Kong thing that was continuously rumoured forever, but then wasn't that.
Yeah, it's still possible.
That's going to absolutely destroy the league if that comes out.
That's not going to come out this year, that's for sure.
Yeah,
the Switch 2 isn't going to come out this year.
No.
News, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, let's jump on that for one first. I know we were kind of segueing into the studio closure and the state of the industry stuff, but Switch 2, yeah. Switch 2 is apparently to be unveiled this financial year. Nintendo come out and said, basically confirmed the existence of it finally. But, they've confirmed the existence of the successor to the Switch. That's the language they used. Which a few Twitter users noticed where they went back in time and noticed Nintendo has used that same language when they've basically done like a second iteration of a platform. Like, so when DS became 3DS, for instance, when Wii became Wii U, they described it as the successor to. So I think they're probably doing the right thing and that it's going to be a Switch 2. Don't expect gimmicks, I think is the takeaway.
Well,
Switch 2,
maybe expect one gimmick.
Like one new gimmick? Yeah, maybe.
They're going to have like magnetic detachable Joy-Cons or something.
Oh god, no, that would be a bad idea. That would be a terrible idea because those would fail, right?
Well, I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, it would. I can't imagine a magnet would hold well enough for how firm that grip needs to be. That's the whole reason for it to be a rail.
It'd have to be a really strong magnet, and then also you're into problems with really strong magnets, right? Around people and things.
That's true. That's fair enough. Although there's a lot of magnets in a modern like iPad or whatever. But not quite for doing that.
Strong.
Yeah.
Not strong enough to hold a console up safely. I'd worry about the twist, right? You know, that's what magnets would be susceptible to.
It's not a wide surface.
Yeah. Anyway, it's to be announced this financial year, so that is for the Nintendo's financial year is a classic April to April, so we're not going to hear... that could be any time from now till April next year before it's unveiled, let alone released. And they have explicitly said we're not going to hear about it in the June E3 time-ish direct.
Sad times.
So, yeah, I think it's safe to rule out a this year release. I think it's still on the cards that they might do what they normally do and come out in March. Like, come out in...
Well, yeah. I mean, that was our other theory of when it would come out, just like how the Switch did with Zelda and all that. But then to say, in that case, as we also mentioned, like, they'd revealed the Switch a year before that. And if they're saying that they're not even going to reveal this one until potentially after that time.
Yeah, maybe they're moving their release window and it will be like a holiday 25 thing.
Yeah, or a March 26th.
I mean, in fairness to Nintendo, we've talked about this before, but in fairness to Nintendo, they're not under a huge amount of pressure to change hardware. It's like, yes, the Switch is aging and it's, third-party games clearly are struggling to make good use of that hardware.
Apart from all the trash, naturally.
Well, yes.
Classic Nintendo problem.
I mean, even Peach's... What was that game even called? Showtime Peach Showtime thingy. Even that has performance-related problems in spots. And
I mean, the Link's Awakening thing had performance problems.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but that's because it's freaking unreal.
And Kirby made some choices that I don't like in terms, like the whole animation quality gets poop pretty close to the camera, that kind of choice, just to try and deal with Switch's limitations. So it's like, I'm super excited for a new one, especially if the rumors are true and that it's going to be like PS4 level performance, but with modern, a modern chipset. So expect a modern NVIDIA chipset, but like not, obviously not a current gen, quote unquote, powerhouse. But so expect DLSS, expect the possibility of ray tracing in a handheld. They say, expect 4K. That's been flying around.
Can you do current Switch games at 4K 60 on the Switch 2?
I mean, that would be the hope, right? That Nintendo put some kind of like boost mode in, but Nintendo have not been known to do that, right? They've not been known to enhance old games on a new platform.
Apart from the new 3DS.
Does that count?
It did a tiny bit.
Yeah, and there were like 1 or 2 games that required the new 3DS, I think.
Yes.
But generally not. It's just not a thing they do.
But I think we said about that before, that like in this age of technology, they might just get it for free almost.
Maybe, yeah.
It might you can just put in a Switch game and it just runs it better.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they won't like go to the effort of like there being an upscale, like, or a res improvement or something like that. But a raw frame rate improvement, if they just let it do that. Hyrule Warriors running at a constant 30 or a constant 60. That's a game changer on its own.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild and I've forgotten what the new one's called. Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah.
Like running at a consistent 30 rather than a dippy one. That's pretty cool. On its own. And games that utilize dynamic resolution, presumably they won't be like hampered a little bit, so you'll get less flicker in your Splatoons. That kind of thing. That would be neat. I fully expect this to be like 100% backwards compatible, but to what end, we don't know. I think it'd be madness for them to not do that at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if they continue to not release any games.
Yeah.
Like, what are they even going to talk about in this June Direct if they're not going to talk about the Switch 2?
I was watching a video...
Metroid Prime?
You would hope.
Well, yeah. I was watching a video from Good Vibes Gaming. I like those guys. And they were talking about how the Triforce arcade board was what powered Mario Kart GP and Mario Kart GP 2, the Namco-made Mario Kart games. Just watching those just got me a little bit hyped for, what if they made a new Mario Kart?
I mean, I'm sure they're going to. Like, that's not... I don't think that's something to get super hyped about.
I know,
somewhat hyped, but not like super hyped.
Like,
not unless it was F-Zero.
Well, yes. Then I don't think you could contain the hype in this room.
and not a very high percentage of that would be coming from me. Some of it would, but not that much.
If ever there was an announcement, like watching these game events and stuff like that, that would make me jump out of my seat and audibly whoop. It would be an F-Zero announcement.
Well, maybe they're testing the waters with a Zero 99.
Well, I almost did it with 99. I have to admit, like just even the bare mention of the words F-Zero was enough to get me pretty excited. Unfortunately, my hype on that game was pretty short-lived in reality. But oh my god, I need to go play GX now. Let's carry on with the news. Let's talk about the biggie. So yeah, Microsoft have kind of shit the bed. Is the way to describe this. They have shuttered 4 more studios. I say 4 more. I don't think they had closed any studios up to this point. This after all their acquisitioning. This is kind of the first time where they've gone. They'd had layoffs, but this is the first time they've turned around and gone, you know what? We're just going to close down a whole bunch of these things we just bought for some reason. The most confusing thing is just how high profile 2 of these studios are. So the headliners are Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks, backed up by Alpha Dog and Roundhouse. They were effectively support studios in some ways. I think Roundhouse helped Arcane on a few things. They helped on Redfall. And I did look up what Alpha Dog did, but I can't remember right now. Do apologize, Alphas. Yeah, so those are, I mean, Arcane Austin, that's sort of like the one could argue their heritage goes all the way back to Dishonored. We were trying to untangle that before the podcast begins, but yeah, I think Arcane Austin are responsible for pretty much everything you care about for the most part on the Arcane side. I think Prey was Arcane Leon, but the Dishonored series and unfortunately, like Redfall, was them, and Roundhouse helped them with that. And obviously, Redfall was a complete and utter unmitigated disaster. Bad game, in every way. The most annoying thing about the Arcane Austin closure is that Microsoft has previously admitted that Redfall was kind of a disaster because of mismanagement. They said ages ago that, talking about Redfall and how badly it went, about this time last year actually, that they should have stepped in sooner, implying that actually it wasn't really Microsoft were fairly hands off and that this was Bethesda's mishandling of the project. But Microsoft were aware of it to an extent, and they probably should have waded in and tried to rectify the solution themselves. So, which makes the studio closure feel all the more galling, right? Because it's like, well, this was managed incredibly poorly. They knew it was being managed incredibly poorly, so it was the studio's fault? That doesn't seem right. I
mean, there's no implication that these studio closures really have anything to do with their most recent releases. I don't think anyone said that. That's what you assume.
Not explicitly, no, but that is the assumption. You're right.
It could just be random cost cutting, and they just looked at whatever.
Yeah, like they had to make some cuts.
Metrics they have.
Yeah, but this is oh man, I'll come back to it. It gets worse though. It really does get worse. So that's one. That's one pretty beloved studio getting murdered for making a game they didn't want to make. Tango Gameworks is the other one. Now they're another studio where it is really hard to see where they've put a foot wrong in their history. They are best known for Evil Within, Tokyo, Ghostwire Tokyo, and most recently Hi-Fi Rush.
I mean, Ghostwire Tokyo wasn't great.
It wasn't great, but it wasn't awful, right? Like it swimming in sevens, I suppose. Not a Redfall by any means. I mean, it's one of the. I guess it probably didn't perform particularly well financially, which is clearly the problem. But it's got a bit of a cult following now, like a slow build, especially when that game got freed from its PlayStation exclusivity deal, so it's turned up elsewhere. But yeah, Hi-Fi Rush, last year's breakout hit, despite being shadow dropped out of nowhere, which, is cool, but doesn't necessarily help a game's sales, right? Because there's no marketing behind it. The shadow drop is the marketing.
Right, yeah.
Risky strategy. But by all accounts, Hi-Fi Rush did well. I think the stat is, and it's a bit muddied because of Game Pass, right? It's hard to actually track the success of a game now because of Game Pass, but apparently it's had 3 million players, so 3 million individual accounts have played Hi-Fi Rush. So that's pretty good for what is essentially a budget title, but really probably shouldn't have been a budget title. It's excellent. It's like Devil May Cry. You've got some work to do, guys. Why is Devil May Cry as popular as it is? I don't understand. Like, how is that a full price game and Hi-Fi Rush isn't? It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, that is obviously the most painful to me, because Hi-Fi Rush is an excellent game and I love it to bits. And it's a real shame they're being punished for putting out probably the best thing Microsoft has put out for a long time.
Right. Yeah. Oh, God.
It makes no sense at all. And just to really cement that nonsensical vibe, Matt Booty, head of studios at Microsoft, in a town hall, I hate that term. Like, I don't know, just one of those like sort of corporate speak nonsense for like we're just having a big meeting. We'll call it a town hall that anyone can speak at. It's like,
that's from politics.
Comes from American politics, doesn't it? Like
something like that. Yes, it sucks. I hate it.
Literally meeting in a town hall.
Yeah,
that's the whole point.
But they do that with like the president does a town hall, right? Or whatever.
Yes.
I mean, we kind of have those at work as well, but they just refer to them as like all
we
hands.
Kind of have those in British politics.
Hands, yeah, all hands is a better term, I think, than town hall.
Anyway, Matt Booty said like that Microsoft's focus should be on smaller games for prestige and awards, to which the whole internet suddenly cried, Hi-Fi Rush, guys,
yeah,
you did Hi-Fi Rush. It was a smaller game and it did gangbusters and won a bunch of awards. What the actual, just utter madness. And like, I don't know, it's now like it just feels so weird, right? Microsoft's whole strategy was like they realized they weren't putting out enough first party games, so let's go on a buying spree and get a whole bunch of studios so we can make first party games. Like, this was the long term vision, and they're not playing the long game anymore. They've succumbed to the industry's short-sightedness that, is universally hated because it's stupid and it's all shareholder driven and market uncertainty driven, which is all nonsense at the best of times anyway, because you only need one little tidbit of uncertainty in one part of the industry and suddenly it spreads like a virus in a Digimon. Like, this is just awful. Dear. Like, it's just I don't know. It's I was beginning to have quite a lot of faith in Microsoft. Like I thought their whole strategy of like, okay, yes, we're doing a lot of buying and we're doing a lot of purchases to improve our first party portfolio because Xbox is behind generally as a brand behind Nintendo and PlayStation. This was the plan.
The whole problem with their plan, though, was like they did all these purchases, but like most of these studios they've bought have only put out one game. It's like it's not a long-term strategy if you're only getting like the one thing they were working on when you bought them. Where's all this subsequent games?
Right, but then that's the problem, right? Games take so long to make and take so long. That is the primary front. Like going wide and getting a whole bunch of studios meant that they could actually have a slightly more regular feed of games. Right,
it hasn't worked yet.
No, it hasn't worked yet.
Apart from if you count like Double Fine, I guess they were the one that did manage to put out several games.
Well, no, they've only really put out Psychonauts since being owned by Microsoft.
Well, yeah, but like they at least did Broken Age as well. Finish that off.
Yeah, but that wasn't under Microsoft's. That was way before Microsoft's acquisition.
I mean, that was like they were in the process of being bought while finishing it, really.
No, I think it predates it by quite a bit. If I'm remembering the documentary right, I think that was done and dusted like well before Psychonauts 2 it started.
Well, before Psychonauts 2, sure.
And then Psychonauts 2 is like the Microsoft acquisition was a necessary part of that game's development to get it over the line. Yeah, but anyway. Yeah, which puts, I mean, this is the other thing, right? Like, surely now you've got to be looking at developers like Double Fine and Ninja Theory being like, ooh, guys, you might be in a bit of trouble. So if the crosshair has to fall on someone, is it them next? I mean, Hellblade's about to come out. As soon as that game comes out, it's like, shut the studio. We're done. I really hope not. Ninja Theory are awesome, but Hellblade 2 has taken a long time to make. It's a bad look. And I think the internet has turned on Phil Spencer finally. As a result of this, because it's like, well, you're head of Xbox. This is all on you, dude. Ultimately, and it's like, well, yeah that's fair. The smiley, the facade has perhaps fallen. And I will be the first to admit I fell for it. I thought,
Yep, I thought they had a clear plan. Yeah.
Oh dear. I still like Game Pass though, so you've still got me. But god damn it, it's not like PlayStation are putting many games out anyway. Moving on from that. The UK government has actually paid attention to the Stop Killing Games campaign. Now, I'm not going to profess to say I've been following this too closely. I don't. It's like basically some YouTuber guy has been like running this sort of campaign off the back of Ubisoft. Ubisoft's high-profile just ending of The Crew was kind of what started this all off. Like, because The Crew doesn't have to be an online game, but it has an always online requirement. And so even if you wanted to play that game single player, you now can't, because they took all of the online stuff offline, and they never patched the game to allow it to work without any of that stuff, stupidly. So that has sort of triggered a whole movement, basically, saying don't do this, guys. It's like, it doesn't make sense. Like, if you've got a single player game that you can't maintain, just make it so we can still play it offline. We don't need the multiplayer stuff. It's fine. Just do that for us, please. The UK government has responded because there was one of those like online petition things started, and it reached the threshold where they have to at least acknowledge its existence. And they have replied by saying, whatever. Pretty much.
Classic UK government.
Yeah, whatever, man. Like, so they're essentially saying it's like, it's not illegal. Like, the games like this can be shut down. They can disappear, and thus you don't have access to it. But it's not really something. It's not really a problem, is their response.
I mean, it's not any different to all the other games that have had their online services shut off over the many years before this.
Absolutely.
Like, it's just this one that triggers a wave of people, but like, it's not like this wasn't happening for many, many years before.
No, and in fairness, the campaign isn't specific. It's just sort of been, it's been kickstarted by what is a pretty relatively high profile game getting cut in this way. But anyway, yeah, it's not illegal. They're within their rights to do that. But they did sort of like add a little statement to the bottom. It's like it's not very consumer friendly for them to do this. We do hope devs and publishers provide a solution for consumers to run the game themselves. Should these events happen, and it's like, but that doesn't mean anything. It's like you can say that and say like, oh, we hope they provide the solution because that is pro-consumer and that is good, but also we're not going to do anything about enforcing it. So there is another threshold that the petition can reach, though. It's like if the petition carries on and they still keep acquiring signatures for it. Well, I think it's 100,000 when they hit that mark in the UK. It actually has to be mentioned in Parliament.
Right. And so where are they then?
I don't know. And I think they're nowhere near, basically, at the moment. Okay, yeah. But some way to go. Anyhow, I mean, that's just kind of weird. I mean, what did you expect? But also, can't help but agree with the campaign. Like, because why wouldn't you? Finally, should we talk about game announcements? Should we talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows? Just briefly?
I think we should.
Just to say, they finally did it. They did they're doing a Feudal Japan one. Sweet.
Ninjas.
Ninjas and samurai and cherry blossom. Yeah. And the lead character is black. Oh no, controversy. What have you done? Like it's not controversy. Like they're actually like okay. Twitter has done its thing. Twitter has done its thing. You know, of course it did. It's like you made a Japanese game and you decided to put a Native American in the lead role. Why did you do or an African in the lead role? Why did you do that? That's not right. It should be a Japanese guy for a Japanese game. And it's like like to which like I've seen many people then tweeting the intro sequence to Afro Samurai. And it's like, well, why didn't you have a problem with this? Because the internet is weird. And it's like, I don't know, Yasuke's kind of a fun choice and it's also the first time the Assassin's Creed has made a known historical figure the person you're playing as.
That's cool.
The life of Yasuke is fairly debated in terms like the historical records aren't great, but he is known to have existed as a sort of assistant to Nobunaga. I think that's how it goes. I watched an anime on it a while back. The anime wasn't very good. But it is it's I'm now getting like, what was that? What was the PS3 game? I can't remember the name of it now, but it's like it's real moments from Japanese history or whatever. So here's a giant enemy crab.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that game was now.
The PS3 announcement.
Yeah.
E3.
That old classic. Classic. But they are leaning into that here a little bit. Like real stories from Japanese history. I bet there'll be a giant enemy crab reference in there somewhere. You might not fight one, but there'll be a reference. They have to. Come on, they have to.
Let's hope so.
Anyway, that's Assassin's Creed Shadows. Oh, and they're basing that on the Valhalla model. So this isn't Mirage wasn't just a test, the first game in a sequence of these. I mean, it might be. We might still see more of those sort of like more narrative-focused, small-scale games. But no, this is a return to the big open world format. Which, I know I just lambasted a little bit by saying I want a tight 8, but come on, man, Feudal Japan, you might have just won me over. This might be the moment.
Excellent. Okay, Assassin's Creed. I mean, if a setting's going to work, then I think that's a good choice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of a little part of me is surprised I didn't go in for Valhalla at one point because, riding off.
I like the idea of England or whatever.
Yeah.
Or pre-England, I guess.
And also sort of riding off the back of God of War a little bit, right? And the Norse mythology working out there. But maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm just sort of like, well, if I'm going to play another one of those, I'll get around to sorting out playing Ragnarok. rather than Valhalla.
Probably the one I want to play, but
also those games are just
kind of game.
Also, those games are just a little bit intimidating, right? Like I have that.
So big these days.
I have that problem. That's the news. That's what I got for news.
Unless if you want to talk about random corporate bullshit going on with weird studio things. This is just something that I saw in my Steam news. Apparently, the developer of Prison Architect 2 is being shut down before the games even come out, but then another developer is going to take over.
Oh, rough.
But, like, it's not... I don't think they're actually being shut down, because, like, I tried to read the announcement and looked into the backstory a bit, but it seems like basically the studio that was making Prison Architect 2, which again is not the original devs of Prison Architect in any way. This IP got sold before they even started making 2. But so the people who were making 2 basically were contracted to make it, and now they're done.
Oh, the contract ended.
The contract ended, but like then they're going to get this other team who were working on apparently the DLCs for Prison Architect 1. This other team is then going to take over like whatever they need to do post-launch of Prison Architect 2, I guess.
God.
So, like, the original studio was only contracted to make it up to, like, a finished version and then just leave.
Or presumably some time period clause expired.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of weird for a game that's not even actually out. Not even early access or anything. It's literally not out.
That's pretty strange. Is Team 17 still managing that? Prison Architect feels like a Team 17 joint.
Paradox, right? Isn't it?
Oh, is it Paradox? Right.
I think.
Yeah, I'd believe that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of game that they put a bunch of DLC
in. Sure.
Like they did with Prison Architect 1 as soon as the IP got sold.
Yeah. Doesn't feel very good.
No.
That's not a good sign.
Well, maybe, I guess.
I mean, unless the game's in a pretty good state.
Yeah, unless it's like they literally were just done, and then they were like, well, I guess we're done. We'll just leave.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe they reached like what they considered version Gold 1 internally. Yeah. And now it's all just patching and stuff, and they can hand that off. That's a slightly weird scenario.
Yeah. I feel like we just haven't seen enough of that game to for that to feel like that's good. It's like it's not early access or anything, and it's just like it's just going to come out, I guess. Maybe. I mean, the whole of Prison Architect 2 has never felt good, you know, because of the IP sale and the fact that from what they've shown, it's just like this might as well just be a 3D skin for Prison Architect. What is actually what's new? What's different?
Sorry, this just in. Right, I looked up the signature thing because you mentioned it, and I thought it was very unprofessional of me not to have looked that up. In this very professional podcast, they're at 25,000 signatures currently.
So a quarter of what they need.
Yeah, and they need 100,000 for it to go to Parliament, for it to be debated in Parliament. And I'm now going to look up Prison Architect. Live Googling. This is how podcasts work in the modern age. Okay. Double 11, was that the original, the contracted studio?
Yeah.
And Koku have now taken it over.
Yep.
And it is a Paradox game, you're right. Yeah.
Goddamn Paradox. Stop releasing DLC for everything for like 2 minutes.
Like, wasn't there a moment where Paradox were like an interesting up and coming?
Well, it was before everyone knew that the DLC thing was what they did.
Yeah.
It was the first few games that Paradox were like, oh.
I suppose Magica was quite DLC filled, right? But Magica was a cool game.
Well, Magica was. I mean, it's only published by. I mean, all Paradox, of these are only published by Paradox. Yeah. Paradox aren't really a developer as such.
No.
So there's that. Who knows what's going to happen there?
Are you interested in more Prison Architect?
Only if I can actually see what's different. Like, I'm not going to buy it just on the fact that it's Prison Architect 2 because it's not made by the original people and all that stuff.
Right,
it's like, that's too risky. It's just going to be a, one of these games where it's just like we've just remade the original, except in this case it's not like we've just made the original and the original came out in like the 90s or 2000s. It's like we've remade the original, but the original came out 5 years ago. Or longer than that, really, but I'm finished maybe 5 years ago.
I'm sort of thinking the Take-Two situation for like Kerbal Space Program 2 must be relatively similar, right? Because that game's not out of early access yet.
But that's not like they finished it, though. No. That's not like a contract thing, surely.
No, but they shuttered the studio that was working on it at the time. So whether they've handed off,
but they already did that to KSP2 one time anyway, right?
They did, yeah.
With the not Uber.
What was it? Monkey Squad originally?
No,
Monkey Squad who took it over.
Monkey Squad is KSP1. Then they sold the IP.
Right.
And then it was Uber / whatever they renamed themselves to, Star Theory.
It that Uber?
The one that made Monday Night Combat, yes.
Wow. Okay.
And then they got shuttered, and then it went to whatever the last developer was before they got closed, and we don't know what's happening yet, still.
Are Uber still working on Planetary Annihilation stuff?
No, because they handed that off to the mod.
God, yeah, right? They handed that as well. Man, games are weird.
Yeah.
Wow. That's the news, unless there's any more surprise stuff.
No, I think it's time for what you've been playing. Zach, what have you been playing in the past 2 weeks?
Well, I already mentioned one of the things I've been playing quite a lot of. Vintage Story. I'm back to that, and the multiplayer has started back up in that as well.
Oh, neat.
But I don't necessarily think there's much to say about that. They've still, there's been a few updates since we last played, but they're not really what I would say is like substantial mechanically. It's like there's a bunch of new animals, which is nice, I guess. Makes hunting a bit easier. Mainly because like it's non-threatening animals. Well, okay. I mean, they will still kill you if you aggro them or whatever, but when it's just like deers or moose or whatever, it gives you something else to hunt that's not rabbits for proper meat. You can hunt a bunch of other stuff for bad meat, bush meat.
Bad meat.
But actually, I found when like in the early game of that almost makes it too easy again. As what I said about the mods that added so much stuff that makes it too easy. But just adding these new animals in the vanilla version is like, well, now I can just hunt one deer and get like 8 rabbits worth of meat.
Right.
So that in some ways does make that a little easier in vanilla.
You're a meat machine.
And not just meat, all the other stuff like fat and animal hides that you don't get off rabbits.
Right. For some reason my head just went, I'm just hunting fat.
The blob.
Yeah.
Hunt the blob. But yeah, apart from that, I don't like. We're in the multiplayer. We're playing with even more mods than we had before because now we both have new computers that can theoretically handle it.
Right.
But we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, I don't think there's much else to say. I mean, the other major thing that's changed in the updates is like the ruins are fancier now. Which again,
what are the ruins for? Were they just things to explore?
Yeah, just like random stuff around the world. You get like ruined houses on the surface, and then underground you get little like ruined, not really mining places, that like underground houses, I guess. The lore of that world implies that everyone went and lived underground at a certain point. But now those have been updated, but again, might make it slightly too easy, because now that they've been fancied up, there's a lot of new extra loot in them.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas before, a lot of them were just like, it's some cobblestone, I guess, that you can get by taking it down. But now there's actually like more substantial amounts of loot in there. Torch holders, mainly, I guess.
This is still early access, right?
Yes.
So this is. Do you think they're moving towards what the intended balance is by making it actually a little bit easier? Because it's kind of hard to tell, isn't it, with these sorts of processes?
I feel like it's one of those things where like the balance is never finalized when you're adding stuff like that, right?
Sure, yeah.
They're going to add things and then eventually probably rebalance them further down the line. We'll see about that, though. But the trouble is that like with these patches since we last played, it's that like they are just content, essentially, not mechanics. And I feel like, once you played that game through, I guess we didn't get all the way through what tech tree not really tech tree, what tech exists in that game. But like once you've done those mechanics, that's why you want more mechanics, and that's why you get a bunch of mods. But it'd be nice for the base game to have more mechanics as well. So I want to see them do another big update for that kind of thing. But it sounds like the next big update after this one is going to be more lore stuff, basically. Sort of dungeons. I guess we've never seen the one dungeon that was in previously. The sort of end of the story of that game as it currently stands. But apparently they're adding like 3 more that are also going to be pretty substantial. But of course the trouble with those is finding them.
Yeah, right.
In this giant ass open world.
So there's a hole in the ground somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if there was a method to find the original first big dungeon, because we never got to that point. Because you can find in like the underground cave bases, you occasionally find like teleporters, but they just teleport you to like another random teleporter somewhere else on the map.
Okay.
Which is like, it's helpful if you want to say like find specific resources, because then you can just like get to a completely new area which might have different resources. But like, is there a way to, do you eventually find a teleporter that leads specifically to the secret dungeon, or do you have to find it some other way, or do you just have to get lucky, or is there some other, I guess it could be hidden in one of the lore books, like if you read a specific book it might give you a hint. We just never found that, possibly.
Right, yeah.
I don't know how it worked. So maybe we'll find out this time, depending on how far we get through this playthrough.
Maybe they hadn't added that yet. Maybe the discovery mechanism, the problem is mechanism isn't there.
Maybe, but I've seen a lot of like video thumbnails of people talking about that thing in a way which would imply that like it is possible to find naturally without just cheating or whatever.
Okay.
So there's that. And then what else did I play? I very briefly played a small bit of Factorio. I've been trying not to play Factorio before the expansion comes out, because obviously I'm going to play a shit ton of it then.
Do we need an intervention? Do we need to step in and be like, Zach, there are other games.
Well, I mean, I haven't played it for a long time.
The Factorio page on our website literally takes longer to load than any other page.
I haven't played it for a long time because the expansion's coming up, but there's been a new fairly ridiculous mod that's been making the rounds, which I just had to go and try from. I'm not sure I'm going to continue it because it is kind of awkward, but like that's kind of the point. Obviously, it's another logistics puzzle to solve, but it's the hilarious Ultracube.
Okay,
where you just have you have the Ultracube, but you have the Ultracube. There's only one. And a lot of the different recipes in the game require the cube to function. So the whole logistics challenge is like, how are you going to get this one cube to go to everywhere in your factory when it's needed?
That's actually kind of neat. Like, in terms of like
mixing it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in my first initial attempt in this early game base, it's like you have the normal Factorio style like bus belts on one side, but then like behind the factory you have the cube belt that just ships the cube behind all the factory buildings and drops it off at whichever one needs it at the moment.
Wow, okay.
But then the thing about that is that like it, obviously, because of the way the tech tree works, it gives you it almost immediately. It gives you the like circuit network and combinators for the like being able to do circuit conditions and stuff. Because obviously you need that to manage the cube. Where you're like basically have to use the sensors to be like which one of these products is running lowest, so we can divert the cube over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the design trick of that, coming up with interesting way to do that.
That's kind of neat.
But yeah, I'm not sure I'll actually continue. I've been seeing a lot of videos about it. I was like, I have to go see what this is about. And also, it's funny, the Ultracube.
Yeah.
The one Ultracube. And it's super heavy as well. You move really slowly when you're carrying it.
Do you think the next season of Derg will explain the error cubes?
I doubt it. I don't think they're ever going to get explained. It's possible. I mean, they're like, the trouble is like, everyone has a ton of them by now.
Yeah.
So if you unlock their potential, everyone's just going to have so much of it, and then it's going to be like perk points. You're just going to have so many of them. You're never going to.
Unless we don't. Unless you don't. They've never gone into your inventory before.
Well, you can see it in the main menu. If you go,
yeah, but they could just pass that. Be like,
but then everyone would be pissed. Like all that work I did to pick up all those error cubes.
But unless
make it a beer ingredient. I mean, that would be the one. That would be the one way to use that up.
Glitch beers.
They kind of missed an opportunity because they should have made the randomizer beer based on the error cubes. That would have made thematical sense.
Oh, maybe. Or you could throw the error cube at the board and it just changes it for some reason. Glitch out electrical systems. Oh, maybe it should be a one-use weapon against the robots or something. The rivals, the rival company.
I mean, I could see it being a one-use, like almost importing some of the stuff from Roadcore, basically like make it a one-use randomizer, but a randomizer that goes beyond literally just changing your loadout. Give it like weird stat bonuses
that could be fun.
That are not related to the actual loadout.
Yeah.
So you can keep your actual loadout, but just have it get weird buffs.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always into that as far as like roguelikes go, right, and stuff like that. It's just throw more random at me. That's what I want.
They would probably have to make them slightly more common if they're going to make them a single-use item like that, though. What they would probably do with error cubes is they would probably introduce a new resource that it has to also be made with, right? If if it was like new cores or something to forge. I still think they're not common enough for that even. I mean, that's not actually a problem.
I mean, they would change that.
Yeah, just change the drop rate up.
Yeah,
make them spawn more commonly. Although, as is the classic problem with Derg, like the more stuff you add, the more things are filling up the spawn pool.
So,
like, how often do you see an error cube? How often do you see bitter gems? How often do you see?
God, it's been a friggin' age since I've seen an error cube. In fairness, but...
yeah. How often do you even see cargo crates or backpacks? Those even shouldn't be on the same spawn. I don't think those are on the same spawn pool, but.
Less than a month until we actually start talking about new content for Deep Rock Galactic.
They finally announced a date for the season 5 patch. Woo. So that'll be nice. Something different to do. In Derg. Not actually that different. Speaking of not different things, because I guess I don't need to talk about any of the things that I've been playing, as we've just proven, but like the last thing that I played for a very brief amount of time while our power was off at home, so my PC wasn't on, I was like, I can go back and play some Zelda again.
Right.
Use the power of the Switch.
Oh shit, you just reminded me, I still haven't finished that thing.
No, you haven't. Neither of you have. God damn it.
Oh, God.
Definitely haven't.
But I went back to my alt account because that was the one where my plan had always been that I was going to see if there was any like weird secrets breaking I could do, knowing what the triggers are now. But that playthrough still hasn't even got off the Great Sky Island yet. So
okay.
And I'm pretty sure you can't secrets break that, as far as I know. I don't think the speedruns have worked out how to do that yet. But yeah, I was just running around and like getting through the sky. I guess I'm at the end of the Sky Island now. Just got the last shrine, the time reverse shrine done, and then
they've kind of said they're not going to do any updates to.
No, yeah.
So you don't expect a master mode.
Nope.
Which is a bit of a shame.
Yep.
I mean, that game is enormous already, but still.
Yes.
I mean, they did do DLC for the last one. So
they did, yeah.
But they'd always planned to do that, I guess.
That's true.
Whereas this was originally a DLC, right?
Yeah.
And then it shifted into a full product.
Maybe they'll announce a new Zelda in June. I wouldn't have thought so, but...
I highly doubt that.
Well, I forget what they said. They did say something not that long ago about...
Well, they said they don't want to make another game in this Zelda universe, basically.
Right, yeah.
No more Breath of the Wild world.
Yeah, they don't want to use the same map, but they didn't really talk about whether they want to use the same formula again.
I mean, I think
it's still up in the air about whether they want to carry on with what Zelda is now.
I've said it before on the podcast, but I want Wind Waker Breath of the Wild. I want sailing to be the big thing. Build your own boats.
Okay.
Make the depths like the depths of the sea. Every temple is a water temple, obviously.
Oh, no. Nobody wants that. Did you see the thing on Digital Foundry about Majora's Mask recompiled?
Right,
I did.
Yeah.
That looks rad as flip.
It looks way cool.
I mean, I'd still probably do the thing where you make it look a little bit like the original, because I kind of agree with Alex's from Digital Foundry's opinion that like you want a little bit of that crunchiness. Like making it too sharp, I think doesn't look quite right.
Yeah, for sure. But
man, that's a cool approach. And it's like now that they've got that, I mean, the tech is weird, right? Like how that actually functions. Like it's not a full. Like he described it relatively well in the video, but like it's not emulation. It's not taking the original ROM and trying to run it and then translate all the real-time events to the hardware you're running it on, so it works. It's not compilation, so they're not decompilation, so they're not like fully. They're not taking a ROM and then decompiling it to the point where they can then package it and put it out as a whole new product, like with the ROM intact. With Recomp, you have to provide the ROM to it, and then the tool will do the work for you to effectively build an exe that will run, which is kind of mad.
I don't fully understand, but okay, the difference between the recomp and the decomp.
Right. So, like, I think a decomp it's like it runs the risk of like they would have to provide the assets and the code for the game as part of the package you download and install. Right. So they are then distributing the game, which is obviously a big no-no.
So this is something that can take the ROM, decompile it, and then
build it back into native code.
Okay.
So, but you have to provide it with that game ROM. So technically, they're out of the problem, right? It's in the same grey area as emulation has always been.
Cool.
But this opens up a whole can of worms, right? If they can do this for. What's uncertain, I suppose, is how much had to be tuned for Majora's Mask to make it work.
Well, I imagine there is another angle on the legal problem side of just like you actually have to manipulate the code, which means you actually have to be able to read the code on some level.
Yeah,
which is like trade secrets or whatever, I'm sure.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe the decompilation into something you can read is the illegal part. I don't know. And the reverse engineering and I don't know, I'm sure there are plenty of license agreements that are like, you should not modify this code, but then I think they're normally associated with you should not modify and distribute this code, which they're not doing.
But in order to create the thing that does it, you had to have done it once.
But they didn't distribute it, so it was fine.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And the results are really, really interesting. Get hype for those N64 games that didn't run very well, that now might run somewhat well.
Yeah, is it time to play Majora's Mask again? I mean, we did.
I mean, now might be the time to get hold of it before Nintendo try and lawyer it.
I have Majora's Mask, but I definitely played Ocarina more. Like, obviously, I finished Majora's Mask.
I know very little about Majora's Mask, so it would be quite interesting to me.
It's good. It's weird. Obviously, it's weird.
The only thing I really know about it is the sort of meme between us. The sort of the time change and the way we've always just gone dingo.
Dingo. Yeah. It's cool. It's just a different kind of feel, obviously. It doesn't have it's just weird.
Yeah, it's a remix, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a remix. Yeah, exactly. I just remember that the bunny ears made you faster, so you just wore them all the time.
Yep.
So through the entire game, you had bunny ears on.
The hood.
And I remember at the time the Zora transformation swimming stuff was kind of cool, but probably... 30 frames per second, so probably quite difficult to control.
It wasn't even that, right? I think
no, less.
I think in the UK it ran at 15.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Due to PAL, I guess.
Yeah. 20 in the US.
Yeah. So that's why this would be awesome. Run it at 60 or 120 if you want.
You can do that. Yeah, run at 120 with original resolution, but turn on the super sampling so it gets rid of all the like anti-aliasing artifacts. Or aliasing artifacts, I guess. Maybe even reduce the frame rate to 20, I don't know. Just make it look like the original, but nice and smooth. That was the thing about our video, right? You liked how I ran Angry Lion to make it look like the N64 original. The Angry Lion graphics
that was
plugin.
Good. It looked great, that, yeah.
There is something about crunchy pixels. Love me some crunchy pixels. You got any more, Zach? Sorry, I derailed.
No, that was it. I mean, I say that was it, but obviously Vintage Story was a lot of time. But,
Sure.
But there's not much to talk about there.
No. One of those.
Well, I've carried on playing some Magic on the client or whatever, arena.
How's it going? You're taking on the world.
I guess. I mean, it always matches you with people, but like I said last time, like it's very limited your interaction with them. They can emote, but there's a very, very small pool of things that they can say or you can say.
There's no laughing emoji, is there?
No, you cannot grief people by laughing at them. You can say good game, which is good. And you can say oops, which is useful quite a lot for when you screw up. Yeah. So that part of it works. Yeah. It's just quite a bit to get your head around, I guess, because there's a lot of options in the client, obviously, for people who are into it. So you need a bit of I had to Google a bit of like what you're supposed to do at first. I mean, it has a great like tutorial, gets you into it or whatever, and then it gets you started. But it's hard to tell what you're supposed to do to get the right. There's quite a lot of options of what to play.
Right. Yeah.
But the starters deck stuff is a great start. So I think the new player experience stuff is relatively new and works well. So that stuff is really good. So I've gone a bit beyond that now. So, well, what they suggest you do is take one of the starter decks that you like, and then because you automatically get all the cards from all the starter decks that you play through or whatever. So what they suggest is you faff around, you upgrade that, right, from the pool of cards that you've got, and then go into the ranked system. But it starts you, even when you go into the ranked system, you're still, I think, in a pool of relatively new players. And so initially it only introduces, so it's trying not to overwhelm you, which is quite good. So at first, do you know about formats? Like the cards are grouped into possible like league formats. And so in the cardboard game, Paper Magic or whatever, the main format is called Standard. And that has like the most recent sets, and that's how they make their money, right? Because in order to have a standard legal deck, you have to buy new cards all the time, right? That's
whenever a new set comes out, you've got to upgrade, and then you've got to decommission a portion of your deck.
Yeah, a bunch of them rotate out of standard and new ones rotate in, and then it's similarly in Paper Magic, there are formats where you can play your old cards. I can't remember what they're all called, but they have different ones with different restrictions, but the problem with that is but the thing about that is like, okay, cool, you can use your old cards, but because everyone can use cards from a wider pool, the decks are just much more powerful.
Yeah. And the complexity and knowledge required is higher, right? Exactly,
because you could be facing decks with cards from a much larger pool and combos that you'd never even seen before, and and I think it goes to the point of there's a format where almost everything is legal back to the beginning, apart from the seriously broken stuff. But if you actually play a game of that with anyone serious, then the games last until like turn 3 or something. If you're lucky, because they're so powerful. And it's all about, well, can you kill them on turn 2, or can you stop them killing you on turn 2? Stuff like that. Which is, I don't know how interesting that is. I guess if you're into it, it's quite interesting. But anyway, the standard whatever is, obviously not. You have more normal games, which is good. With the flip side being that you keep having to buy new cards, whatever.
When the games are that short and the decks are tuned to that degree, like, is there any real strategy to it at that point? Like in terms of how you play the game at that point, because presumably that deck has a way it works, and I assume nothing else is actually going to work at that point, or you're just going to be dead.
In tournaments, it's best 2 out of 3, right? So, and you have a sideboard. So I guess game 1, it's just
see what happens.
See what happens, but then you can respond to it by adjusting your deck to maybe have some chance of slightly countering what they're doing or whatever. That's my understanding of it anyway. I haven't really delved into that, but obviously even in the tournament stuff, there's tournaments, but people playing standard is the normal one, right?
Sure.
But yeah, there's people playing these crazy older formats. And then you introduce the digital to it. So Arena has its own formats and the one that starts you off with is called Alchemy, and it's a bit like standard, but it's expanded with some digital only cards, but the thing about it being online on a computer game is in that format they can actually nerf cards and buff them, rather than just banning them, because they're not just printed. They can actually balance
the game
over time, in a way. Yeah, which they can obviously you can't do once you've printed the paper cards. So they have a format where they have, it's mostly standard, but they have some slightly older sets and some balanced cards and some online exclusive cards and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. So that's how it starts with. But that does mean that is slightly more powerful than standard in terms of the decks that you might face. But that's how it starts you off in the ranked thing. But then you're playing against people who are the same rank as you or whatever. So it's fine. You can win. But and all those starter decks, they're all Alchemy, that format. They're all legal for that format. So once you got done with that and you've leveled up and then you unlock, the ability to select the different formats, then you can select standard, but you have to adjust your deck because some of the cards in the starter deck aren't legal in standard.
Right.
So you have to kind of figure this out, and you have to take out some good cards, and then you have to put some in. And so anyway, I've managed to figure all that out, and I'm having some fun playing the ranked with the unmodified starter deck. But I think as you rank up in Alchemy, like, you're not going to stand a chance in Alchemy, that format with the starter deck, but in standard, it's a bit better. It's slightly less power level. So I'm anyway, I'm feeling my way through it. But what I want to know is, like, what's the most, because I don't know how you're supposed to do it, or if you want to spend money, what the best way would be to do that, because, you can get a lot out of it. And there's all kinds of there's like a mastery tree thing for the current set or whatever, and that can get you stuff. And you end up getting loads of cards, but the trick is, well, the real trick, I suppose, is Magic is a trading card game, and you can't trade these cards.
Right, I see.
Right?
Yeah.
That's like, whereas there's
no way of like selling them on, or like grinding them into some other material that you can.
Yeah, whereas the old creaky old version, Magic Online, which has been around for like 20 years or something, that is like a pretty much full, as I understand it, simulation of the paper game, and you can trade cards and you can buy cards like singles.
Interesting.
So it's interesting. So whereas in Arena, the way it works is you buy packs or whatever, and you get cards, but there are wild cards, right? So you have a chance in a pack of getting a certain amount of wild cards, and wild cards you can convert into the cards you need. So you add to certain rarity. So, you get out, if you have a rare wild card, you can make that into any rare that you want.
Right, yeah.
Obviously, you could make it into a rare that then rotates out of the format, and then you can't sell it. So, obviously it's geared. I'm trying to go into it like fully clear-eyed. Obviously it's geared to make money out of whales, but it does seem to give you a lot for free, like quite a lot, especially if you don't mind losing. Like I think so. I'm trying to work out what I'm supposed to, because what I want is to like have a deck that is competitive but also fun to play I find fun in standard, and I'm trying to work out what it takes to have that, because I think, you know, if you get into it, you can either invest time or money, obviously. If you get into it, I think people like variety and playing with loads of different cards and all that stuff and having different decks and going all crazy with it. But I think I'd be happy having, just like we had it back in the day, like my sliver deck or whatever, or my elves deck.
Almost gets to a point where it's your comfort deck in a way.
Yeah. So it'd be nice to have a comfort deck in standard, and then if it rotates out, fine, get another one.
Do it again.
You know. And then maybe that if I don't know if the balance of time or money is right, that it's like actually quite potentially good value for me, maybe. I haven't spent any actual money on it yet, but, you know, I could see how, if I just, you could if I just got these packs, I could get the wild cards or whatever. That's how it works, right?
Sure.
But also, like, you know, my style is not the modern style of game. My style of game is spend 30 of my pounds of pocket money on the game and then play it to death, right?
Sure, yeah.
Which is not the modern world, right?
No.
I guess microtransactions are the way. But if you say
it's unfortunate, but
maybe, I mean, you get a lot with this for free, honestly. Like if I had the time, like maybe Zach does, I don't know, I could easily spend a lot.
But then Magic is like obvious, like. And collecting card games in general, they're like the most obvious analog that would never be that old school formula, right? Plonk down money,
That's true.
Get everything.
Yeah, but at least like with the proper game, you know, you get the physical cards and you can trade them and you can sell them, etc. But I never would. That's the thing. No, that I would just keep them so that I could play with them. So for me, it's not the end of the world if I have a digital copy of a card that I have to keep. Like, as long as the game survives, and it seems to be popular, then maybe that's okay. You know,
every now and then I get partially tempted by the financial aspect of Magic as an investment scheme. Right?
Oh, I see.
Like, buy a few boxes. Like,
I think you'd be better off investing in Lego, to be honest.
Well, maybe, but you buy a few boxes of the boosters and then don't open them and just leave them until they get to a certain age, and then they become valuable. They rotate out of standard, but then there is an inflation rate on Magic.
Yeah, and I think presumably if you have something good, like a rare or a mythic rare, and it rotates out, but it could get reprinted, and if it does, it'll be back in standard, but then your copies will be legal again, even though they're from the old set.
I didn't realize that's how it worked.
I think so, because what's the difference? It's the same card. I don't think it has to be...
Assuming they didn't change anything between the... But then I guess they would just give it a new name and a new... If they want a similar card, but slightly tweaked.
So, Anyway, so out of the starter decks, what I'm trying to work out is, out of the starter decks, which are quite good, is like, what actual style do I actually enjoy playing the most? And that would be the one that I would try to get a good standard deck, you know, in that style. And I think from the paper, right, because my old one was red and green, I guess, elves back in the day, ramp. And you had the slivers, right? And then Zach had the spikes. I think there's a combo with those spikes, by the way. There's an infinite combo with one of those spikes, which is quite funny.
Yeah, that was the thing. The slivers were fun to me, but they were ultimately a terrible deck. That was the problem.
Yeah. I mean, Muscle Sliver was pretty good, I thought, but yeah.
They could get to the point where it was unstoppable, but it was incredibly difficult to get there.
Too slow and it had too many colors. But these days, like I was talking about it last time, but like the mana situation, it's obviously you still get screwed, but it's much better. Like
there's no mana nowadays burn anymore, which is interesting.
No, that's gone. That was gone years ago. But nowadays, like if you have a dual color deck, you usually have mostly dual lands that can give you either color but have some kind of drawback. But you have enough of those mixed in that it's quite rare that you'll like, I have loads of mana, but it's the wrong color and stuff like that. That doesn't really happen as much. I mean, it still can happen. But, you can kind of make it much more consistent in terms of getting the right mana that you need, which is, half the battle because it used to be. I mean, it still happens that like, by the way, that's the other thing is like in Arena, if you play I mostly play. Well, I haven't tried playing best of 3. You can play best of 3, but I mostly just play, one on one shot. And in that mode, there is a algorithm for the initial hand draw, so it's not totally random.
Oh,
so it gives it, and it's not that complicated. It just tries to give you the same ratio of lands to spells in your hand as you have in your deck.
Okay, interesting.
Which is much less annoying, right? So it's very rare to draw no lands or one land or all lands. It doesn't really happen.
That's fairly smart. Yeah,
which is pretty nice. There's no reason not. I mean, there is. Okay, so that's the thing is, if you're very clever, I think there are ways to take advantage of that lack of randomness to give you an advantage, but you would have to build a very specific deck that took advantage of that fact. I can't remember which ones it benefits. It benefits certain kinds of decks more than others.
There was some way where it's like, well, I know I'm getting like 3 lands to 4 cards or whatever the ratio is in your thing.
Yeah,
and there was a way to be like, well, okay, if I had cards that meant I could play those lands out fast, then or something like that, right?
Something like that. There's some ways to make it so you're more likely to win because of that. But I think it's worth it, to make it less frustrating. Because even when you get the nice ratio of cards to lands, you still mulligan because you didn't get the right cards or they're all too expensive.
The non-land ones might still be troublesome, yeah.
Yeah, they might be all the ones you want at the end of the game and stuff like that. And so that still happens, so that's fine. But yeah, so I think what I've worked out is, and based on the one that we played that I was trying to get to work and I lost to you when we were playing on your kitchen table, I think I like where I get to play instants, in response to things and do funny tricks and stuff and play spells on their turn. I just find that fun. Yeah, so that's why I'm going for that Is It, which is blue and red like combo. So I've taken the blue and red starter deck and tried to upgrade that, and I'm having quite a lot of fun with that because it's like, what about this and all that. So I think I like that the most, and I like.
You've activated my trap card.
Exactly, and I kind of like the direct damage of red more than like the black. It would be like destroy creature, right? Murder this or whatever. I quite like the here's the fireball to the face kind of flavor, and that deck has in the alchemy. The annoying thing is that in the alchemy, that deck has Gandalf the Grey in it from the Lord of the Rings set,
right?
But it's not. But that's not legal in standard because it's rotated out.
So,
but
is that rotated out already? I thought that.
Yeah, already. Yeah, it's quite fast. That's the thing.
How many sets a year do they put out then these days? Like,
I don't know.
And how many sets are in it at the moment? Is it like 3 or 4 or something like that? And then
something like that.
And they're putting out 6 a year.
I can't remember.
That's
I'll
quite a lot. So less than your card is going to last less than a year. That's mad quick.
Depends. I think I can't remember. I think it probably is about a year if your set will be in standard. I think.
Wow.
I can't remember. I need to work it out.
Yeah, that is mad fast.
It does move fairly fast. But you can play. That's the other thing that I haven't got into is you can play draft, right? Like and so you can buy packs and you can draft them, and then you get to keep the cards, although they're digital.
Yeah.
And so my
brother does that with real Magic.
With real, real Magic. And I suppose it's supposed to be a gateway to get you into doing it with real Magic. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I think it's good. I'm just on the lookout for what the catch is or whatever. I'm waiting to the point where I rank up, so I just get repeatedly destroyed by some amazing deck that's full of. I do occasionally get it, like where someone's got a million mythic rares or whatever, and just I didn't stand much chance. But
sure,
I don't know. It's rarer than you'd think. It seems pretty fair a lot of the time. So from my limited experience so far, but who knows? Maybe I'm still in some secret like beginner pool of players. I don't think so.
It's a difficult balancing act with, like, presumably with that, because you don't. The fact that they're playing with a deck of nothing but mythic rares shouldn't necessarily mean that it's more powerful, right? That's just
no, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, some of the commons I've got are really good in the deck. Well, I think so. So it definitely doesn't. But I don't know.
Just a show off. Look at all these shiny.
Oh, that's the other thing is, of course, that I don't have to care about is, of course, it has tons of cosmetics. If you want to spend money on that shit,
does it?
You can. Yeah. You got a little 3D model like companion thing that you can buy. You can buy different card sleeves. You can buy different avatar. There's all kinds of things that you can spend money on that don't impact the game in any way.
Huh. Weird.
Which is dumb. Yeah. I think you can buy emotes as well. I don't know.
Is one of them the laughing face? Can you buy the?
I don't know. I think they're very careful about not letting people grieve people. But anyway, yeah. And of course, there's loads. If you get into it, there's like loads more. Like the most popular form of Magic these days on paper is this Commander variant, right? And that you can't. That's not available. Maybe one day they'll put that in, but that's like a big 4-player thing that lasts hours or whatever. Have you come across that? That's apparently the most popular way to play it these days.
Well, I mean, that was starting up towards the end of when we were last trying to play.
I think it was invented back then, but now it's the most popular format, which is weird. I'd be curious to play a game of that, but I don't know how we'd have to buy decks for it.
Yeah,
to try it.
More specific.
Yeah. I think it's best with 4 players rather than 3. So I don't know. Anyway, that's Magic. It's fun. I'm surprised how much fun it still is, given how old it. I think that's the magic of it is, as it were, is that they've had 30 years of design put into it, and there are just so many cards, and they're so good at coming up with mechanics these days that it's just you get a lot of value out of it just because there's been so much gone into the tradition of it over the years, I guess, versus a brand new game. Like, I don't know. I'm sure Hearthstone is great or whatever, but Magic has got all that history to it.
I have no idea what the state of like Hearthstone is these days, to be honest. It feels like it's gone very quiet.
Yeah.
Like Marvel Snap's had its moment, right? Taking over the digital card game scene for a while, but yeah, I don't know. Presumably it's still about. It's just not as high profile as it once was. I have no idea.
Yeah. I'd be curious if one of you give it a try, see what you think. Like, I don't know. Would you have any interest, Zach?
I don't know. I don't think I get on as well with modern Magic as I did with the old Magic, and I didn't even play that much old Magic.
No.
I get the feeling I might gel with modern Magic more than I did old Magic. I mean,
it's fairer than it was.
Yeah, sure. And my brain is still a bit hardwired to the old thinking. Like even now, when I think about it, I'm thinking of the old rules, and I don't really know what the new rules are even now. Not that it's hugely different, but there's details, right?
Yeah.
And there's things. Last time we played, or the time before, where we read basically we'd been getting some fundamentals wrong back in the day, and it just blew my mind. And it's just like, wait, what? What do you mean? We've been doing it wrong for all this time.
Yeah,
man.
It helps a lot that obviously the game engine figures a lot of stuff out.
Sure.
And prompts you. It's interesting how it. Well, it's not interesting, but the one aspect of it is that's special to this arena or whatever is Like, for example, if you have an instant that you can play in response to something, if you don't, it will move on to the. If you've got nothing in hand that you can play or no ability that you can activate, it will just skip that point. But if you do, it'll wait for you to click the button saying, no, I don't want to do that right now, or whatever. And it will highlight the cards that you can play. And you can click a button to say, not right now.
I think the last consoleized Magic
did that. It's probably the same. But the upshot of that is you can tell if the other player has a card if they're taking time.
Oh, I see.
You know? So you have to, if you want to hide it, so you can, it gives away information. And it also, I guess this simulates the real world a little bit, but you can kind of see which of your cards they're looking at by it highlights stuff that they're mousing over. So you can kind of, if you watch very carefully, you can glean some information about what they're thinking by what they're kind of looking at, you know, and how long they're taking to do certain things.
Weird.
I mean, the classic thing is like if they're leaving mana unused on their turn, then maybe they have something, right?
Yeah.
But also if it's taking time, then maybe they have something, stuff like that. And you can bluff it by like, you can hit the space bar really fast, so it looks like you've got nothing.
Oh right, yeah.
If you're careful,
if you know the prompt's going to come up.
Yeah, you can also go into like if you hit the control button key, you can go into full control mode where it kind of stops constantly at any time that you're past priority.
Oh, that's neat because that then
which is handy. It's like a toggle.
Yeah, it kind of negates that and might actually be useful in terms of learning the phases.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't know. I feel like that should almost be the normal, right? Because okay, the auto skip is convenient, but as to say, if it's giving away your position, then that's
You can also put a stop. So if you know you want to play something on their end step, you can put a stop on their end step by just clicking the little end step thing, and then it will skip through and then stop at that point, which is quite handy. So. And that's why I'm having fun with. I want a deck where I can play instants on their turn and respond to what they're doing and stuff like that. So,
yeah, interesting.
There's one which is one of the keywords is convoke, which is you can tap a creature to pay for one color's mana of the card's casting cost.
Oh, okay.
So if you have an instant with convoke, for example, then you can wait until the end of their turn, and you can use your creatures to block their creatures. But because your creatures are untapped, you can tap them for mana to pay that casting cost of that card, play it, and then immediately go to your turn and untap them. Stuff like that. So,
yeah.
Fun stuff.
Weird, yeah. Tapping whilst they're in blocked state. That's interesting.
Yeah, because blocking doesn't tap.
Yeah,
blocking doesn't tap, for example.
And that doesn't negate the blocking because it's
once a creature's blocked, it's blocked.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that might have been one of the ordering things we'd have got wrong back in the day. It's like, well, I can't tap it because and then that would have happened first, and then
in the old days there was a weird combat was different. Now damage all happens at once at the end, so it's like attackers, then blockers, then damage, and you can stop and play spells in between each of those.
Yeah. The act of tapping doesn't remove it from being a blocker anymore, which was kind of, I think, how we did it. It's like, well, if I tap this, and it's like, well, that's happening before you assigned it as a blocker. And it's like, well, okay.
Yeah, once it's assigned as a blocker, in order to be assigned as a blocker, it has to be untapped. But at that point, you can then tap it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll probably talk about it next time. But it's getting into it. Quite absorbing.
Good.
And it's 25 years since episode 1 came out, so every time I see the victory screen, I go, victory.
I did see, Honest Trailers put out a episode 1 anniversary version.
A good one, yeah.
Yeah, not bad. Oh, look how every character is racist.
yeah.
The what-orgasm section.
Yeah, that was good. And a good point about how it's all of the video games and stuff that makes you, have nostalgia for it, not the film itself, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah. All the stuff around the film.
What have you been playing then?
Well, not nothing really on the new pile this week, but I have been finishing a few things off. So I finished Harold Halibut. I got through that thing, and it really was towards the end of it. I got through that thing.
Slog.
Yeah, it doesn't get a huge amount more interesting through its runtime. I mean, mild spoilers. There is a kind of. I mean, the highlight of the game is probably a drug trip sequence that happens about 2/3 of the way through. That's kind of fun. Mixes things up a bit. Gets all a bit existential.
Yeah.
Kind of neat. But even that is a little bit. I think you could argue that even that is a little bit subdued compared to what a drug trip sequence could be in a game like this.
Right. Yeah.
It's just. Yeah, that I don't want to go too much into spoiler territory because it's all this game really has is what's in it and what happens and that kind of stuff. But I will say it picks up pace a bit towards the end. Like things do start to happen a little bit more towards the end. But in some ways you're almost playing it less towards the end as well, because the pace picks up. Like the things you need to do become a lot more linear, and I wouldn't say they get more interactive or any more engaging than they were before, but at least the narrative itself has a little more drive behind it, which was nice. But yeah, it's just an unfortunately dull video game.
Damn.
It's like I've been thinking about it a fair amount though since I finished it, and probably the obvious take to have with this is like, man, what if this was a little less German, because this is German made, which might explain maybe some of the dull writing. Okay. I don't know, stereotypes, and a little more Wes Anderson. Because it's right. Like, what if this was like a weird spiritual successor to Steve Zissou, right? And the Life Aquatic, and this was some like far-flung future version of his lineage or something. And like, because I think
the nautical theme,
and the look is almost the craft look, right? Is almost in Wes Anderson's wheelhouse, as well.
Totally.
And it's like if it had been framed more like that and had a more. Well, it would need a lot more wit. Let's put it that way. It would need a lot more writing.
more writing.
Just write it better, guys. Like, I don't know. Like if you could almost take the exact structure of the game, and if you just made every encounter more Wes, like just weirder, just funnier. I say it's not an easy thing to do, but weirder and funnier and slightly more. That you might be able to get by with not changing a thing in the game. Just change the writing. It would probably be a much more enjoyable experience. It could all look the same. They wouldn't even have to animate differently. Probably, you know what I mean? Just throw some of that on it. And like the more I thought about that, the more I'm a bit bummed out by this thing, because it's like, oh man, just think what it could have been. Yeah. With its setting and its style. Anyway, that's Harold Halibut. It's there's no. What I will say is, if you think you've gone past something in the game and you're thinking, oh, maybe I'll go back and do that on a second playthrough. A, you won't want to, and B, no. There's no chapter select or anything like that once you finish the game. So like with any progress you make that is a hard cut, it's a hard cut. You can't go back. Never go back. You'll have to replay the whole thing if you want to do that. So there are achievos in that I won't get. I didn't 100% it. missed some stuff, apparently. Not sure what. Oh, right, and that's the other thing I should point out. I was narratively ahead of... in my head, I was ahead of the game for quite a long time. As in, there was a plot point that you discover. It comes out as part of the story, and there's what's seemingly a completely separate plot line going on about... if you missed me talking about it last episode, like the main story is like you're interstellar voyage that's crashed and has ended up on this watery planet, and you've been there for a couple of generations at this point. The people that were alive during the crash are old at this point, and there's a window of opportunity for getting the ship, getting the rocket back into space, getting it relaunched out of the ocean. So that storyline is happening at the same time as something else you discover within the sort of corporate nature of how the ship is being run. A bit too much like a tech company. I put 2 and 2 together pretty early on, that it's like, well, yeah, there's this thing, and that's causing this thing to be a problem. It's obvious, guys. It's obvious. And that was a very last second reveal in terms of the actual main plot, and it's just like, right, that was your big twist, and it's like, well, I knew that, and some of the other stuff that I sort of thought the game was alluding to turned out to be absolutely nothing.
Right.
I think I mentioned that last week as well. I think Zach talked about there may have been some sort of like cloning plot or something like that, like going on, but no, not absolutely not a thing. Minor spoilers, there is a Family Feud kind of mini plot in there that turns out that you never actually really get to the bottom of. It just goes, we don't care anymore, basically.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, it just goes, we've forgotten what it was all about in the first place, so you never know, they never know, everyone's happy, everyone's too nice. It's a game of there's something I want to talk about, because it's another one of these things that could have alluded to something much bigger and something much more interesting, and it just doesn't. Like there are moments where you think, oh, is it going to go somewhere? And then it doesn't. It just doesn't. Harold Halibut. Leave him behind. What else have I been doing? I also finished the main sort of thrust of Penny's Big Breakaway. I got through that. It's longer than I thought, actually. There's more levels in that than I was expecting. But it does the thing. And I did enjoy it, and I think it's well made. But I kind of got to the point where towards the back end of the game, it kind of does that thing that a lot of 3D platformers or platforming games in general kind of suffer with, that as the game tries to get trickier and harder, it gets less fun, right? Because it's like what it's trying to make you do is just harder to actually do. And not necessarily a problem sometimes, but like it really starts making whenever a game like that gets harder, all it really does to me, in most cases, is highlight where all the game's flaws are. Like, seeing where you're going to land. There is a drop shadow at times, but like sometimes that's kind of difficult to notice and difficult to see. So sometimes like getting your jump right feels harder than it should be. That has been especially true of some of the Star Globe levels I've played so far, which are optional little mini levels that you can buy if you've found enough currency during the levels. It just starts to feel a bit finicky, and like, I've clipped this wall at an awkward angle and now I'm going to die, or the hitbox for that felt unnecessarily large as it does in places. So so now this section is ruined. I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to get that secret item. I can see it right there, but there is no obvious path to it. What am I supposed to do? There were a few moments like that where it's just like I ended up sort of cheesing it with some sort of glitchy mechanism of getting to where I needed to be, and it's like, I'm pretty sure that's not what they intended. Like, what was I supposed to do? so I started encountering a few moments of that. And actually, I say glitchy, but I did start encountering a greater number of glitches towards the end of the game. I fell through a few places, or I found I found spots where you could just go through a wall if you jumped at it in a certain way, and then glitch out of the level. So I mean, I'm making all of that sound worse than it is because it's a Rob review, right? This is what I do. But on the whole, I think the game is pretty solid. It's. I mean, I didn't 100% realize that they'd gone to the effort of like this is an entirely custom engine. Like it's not based on Unreal, it's not based on Unity or anything like. It is the Star engine. They went and made their own 3D engine just for this thing, to handle it in the way they wanted, which is kind of nuts. Given that Evening Star, this is the first game Evening Star have put out, but it is pretty much the Sonic Mania team. So Christian Whitehead, all that lot. That's who's behind this, and they did that already for Sonic, right? I forget what they called it. I think it might have been called the Retro Engine or something like that. Was powering Sonic, but it was his Christian Whitehead's own engine. I think that they got enhanced for Sonic Mania. Sweet. And he's just gone and done it again. Basically, the whole team has pulled together and they've just built what they needed for the game, which is pretty impressive. It's a pretty unique thing in the gaming landscape right now, like a good old school platform game. That perhaps could have done with a few little tweaks to make it slightly more accessible. The thing that annoys me the most is like that I could have done with one extra button. And by that I mean like so for one of the yo-yo skills, because it's like they combine. I think I talked about it before, where it's like it's press X to basically just throw the yo-yo out in front of you. Double tap X and you do a dash maneuver. If you press and hold, then that's how you do swings in the air. So like the yo-yo will go out or hold in place, and whilst you're holding it, you're swinging on it for a while. And the problem is when I'm doing certain maneuvers, like sometimes it feels a little too easy for it to interpret what you're trying to do as the double tap dash. And it's like, no, that's not quite what I meant, especially if you're trying to do the twirl maneuver, which is one of the moves which is like absolutely required. You have to spin the right stick. Like there's not many where you actually have to use the right stick, but the twirl you actually do. And there's no like perhaps a button press to separate dash out from the others would have been nice. And then I wouldn't have run into the scenario where I'm accidentally dashing, and like because of the momentum, it's then almost impossible to correct on some of the platforming. Like you've just dashed off the edge and I can't come back from it. So yeah, I would have liked a little more customization in how that thing controls, I think. But yeah, ultimately it's very nice. Some of the music is absolutely great. The level select music in particular, I think I mentioned, is an absolute tune. And surprisingly, that's not one of the bops that was made by T. Lopes, who returns for this after his work does a lot of work for Sega and Sonic stuff, but he's back for this. It's I can't remember his name now. Anyway, there's a few other musicians on the game, and all of their stuff is great. Even Christian Whitehead has made a song for it, which is kind of fun. So it's it's nice to see everyone chipping in. It's a good game. You should go check it out. Recommend. That then inspired me to perhaps go pick up something that you might not think I would go and pick up. I've sort of been like thinking about playing some retro stuff again, and one of the things that's always been in sort of the back of my mind was the Klonoa series for PlayStation 1.
Never heard of it.
So it's Namco's cat 3D 2.5D kind of platformer thing. You play this cat thing with like large ears, and you might recognize it if you see it. But yeah, it's from that era. But like picking up those games is actually kind of expensive now. They're not super easy to come across, unless you get the remastered series they put out on Switch and Xbox and PS5. So I've done that. I've picked up the Klonoa Fantasy Reverie thing to sate my interest in, like, what are these games? Are they any good? And I've only played a little bit of it, so I'll hold off too many opinions. But I mean, those seem like fairly decent but fairly simple platformers, 2D platformers. It's like I don't really know what to say about it, really. You have a jump, you pick up enemies, and then you can you need an enemy in order to double jump, because that's how you fling them down, and that's how it flings you higher. You've got a flutter jump like Yoshi, so you can hover in the air for a little bit. You're trying to find 6 of the Phantomile residents to free from their nightmares on each level, and if you do that on every level, then you unlock some stuff. I mean, that's all it really is. I mean, you can shoot or throw things in and out of the screen as well because of the 2.5D-ness. They do play with that a little bit, so there is some 3D nature to how you interact with the world. It's pretty solid so far, is all I'll say. But I don't know if it's going to get any deeper than what I'm seeing right now. But it's pretty solid. The one thing I will say is that the 2.5D aspect does kind of like, how to describe this? It makes the world look stupid in places, because it's just because you're like running along, and obviously the way you control it is limited to like the 2D plane. But there are some sections where it's just like, dude, you could just walk into the background right now, and that would be way easier. You just go through the door. The door's right there, and the jump's not very far. You could just jump to that, right, rather than doing this extended platform sequence around it. So it kind of makes the game at times look real dumb, but mechanically it's interesting, at least. It's well done from that sort of, with things winding around, like you spiral up columns and the level plays out that way. But there might be something in the middle of the column you need to throw something at, and it's seems like a good time. It's got both. The collection has both the first and second game in it. And I'm only playing through the first one at the moment. Don't know how big it is. Well, the thing I think it really could do with, and the thing I would really like, is it has got a pixel filter. You can turn that on and it will put it into crunchy pixel mode, but it's not. Yeah, cool. But it's putting that over the top of the remastered graphics. There's no button to be like, oh, go back to PS1 mode, please. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. And I think I would really like them to have done that. They have added some like quality of life stuff. Like there's now like pop-up tutorials and things, and so you can actually, because I guess the game shipped with a manual originally, and players were expected to read it back in the day. Read the manual. So yeah, I don't think any of these like pop-up tutorial things were in the game originally. I don't know how much of it is new and how much isn't, but anyway, Klonoa. It's not an STD. And that's pretty much all I got. I mean, I'll hopefully if I get some. I haven't had a huge amount of time in the last couple of weeks, but if I get a little bit more time, there's teaser for next week. There's something I've been meaning to play on the PlayStation 1. That you will remember, Dan. So this will be.
I'll remember.
Yeah.
Vib Ribbon.
No, it's not Vib Ribbon. No.
Okay.
It's a slightly deeper cut than Vib Ribbon.
Okay. Wow. That's a semi-deep cut, Vib Ribbon.
Semi-deep,
not the deepest. Semi-deep. Okay, cool. Well, we'll have to tune in next time to find out. But if you can't wait that long, which is 2 weeks until our next one of these podcasts, which we are now wrapping up, you can find us on our YouTube channel, Happy Salad, where we are currently doing a Let's Play of Half-Life 2, but there is also other stuff on there, even recent stuff.
RoboQuest came out today.
Yeah, so check that video out. And we will catch you for another Saladcast in a fortnight.
Problem with that RoboQuest video is every time I watch us playing RoboQuest, it's like,
you want to play
RoboQuest.
Yeah,
it has,
obviously.
It seriously has that, and I end up just. There are times where I think I shouldn't edit these videos because I just end up watching them too. like
Well, you do need to watch them somewhat to be able to edit them.
To a point. But get drawn in. Get drawn in like I do. Yeah, that's your challenge, listener.
It's just too addicting. Get drawn in. See ya.